1, 2, 3, 4. Down to the VHS. VHS out of the VHS. It's the 18 of my face up, 'cause I was out of the house doing stuff. Smoking the Wi-Fi beverages, and I guess that's the way it goes. Down to the VHS. VHS out of the VHS. Got no money, fucking crack, saving up for the Betamax. Down to the VHS. VHS out of the VHS.
Wow!
Hello!
Hi!
We made it.
We made it into the room. You got your spookies up.
I never come down.
Are you ever going to take them down?
I probably will take the caution tape down, but...
Oh, I like it. I also like how it's repeated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, is that your way of saying we're repeating ourselves?
No,
When we're watching these tapes?
that's just that the tape itself is a caution that's repetitive. Sorry.
It is a repetitive caution. That's what this show is.
Repetitive
We
cautions.
repetitively caution people not to watch it.
Yeah. Best not. It's gonna be doozies. How's your week been?
Pretty boring?
Boring?
Yeah, not
But
like...
it was Halloweenies.
I know. I mean, other than my anniversary and Halloween being the same day.
Hmm.
Whoa! Imagine that. Other than that, no, we, didn't really do much.
Oh.
It was a pretty quiet one. I heard
Oh.
you had a good Halloween, though.
Too good.
You sure?
Yeah. Maybe it was bad. I don't know, my coccyx still hurts. And I don't know why. But we did have lots of kids come around, and I was in costume and we danced, and we had to stay away from them because of distancing.
Oh.
But yeah, Halloween's the best holiday for social distancing because everyone has to wear masks, right?
It's just generally the best holiday anyway.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Name one better.
Second Halloween.
There's a second Halloween?
No, but there will be when we make it. Yeah, just give me a couple of weeks to cool off, I suppose.
Well, the way I see it is, we can do Easter as kind of a Halloween thing because it is about a dude raising from the dead.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then we could probably find parallels to pretty much everything like that.
And we
Because
should.
Valentine's Day was when the Goths got one of the saints and ripped his guts out and hung him from a cross as well. So that's
See?
gory.
That's good. We need more of that. We need more saints
Being slaughtered.
Slaughtered.
Yeah. I hear there's an election on right at this very moment as well.
Who's gonna win?
I don't know anymore. Every time I think somebody's gonna win because the other one is just ridiculous, the stupidity of the human race seems to stack against me.
So what you're saying is that Donald Trump is gonna win?
I'm saying that if there's a actual possibility, instead of me going, who the hell would vote for that idiot after everything he's done?
It's funny, because I remember, in the election that he won, right, the general consensus at that point that I was seeing, and I had the opinion myself, was, alright, this publicity stunt is about to end, and we can put it to rest there, but then Hillary Clinton botched it so hard.
Yeah.
So ridiculously hard that it happened.
Just thinking about all this stuff makes my brain hurt. You know what we need?
We need a beer.
We need a beer. This time I brought you a smooth, tropical, hoppy, extra pale ale. Extra? What does that mean, extra pale? XPA. I don't even know what these things mean.
It means it was born with red hair.
Oh, because it's got an extra genome?
Something like that.
I thought that was Down syndrome.
I don't know how it all works.
I hear that drinking too much can break your brain too. I did it again. I just pour. Oh well. But yes, brain breaking. That's what we're doing today. We're learning about brain problems. I thought we would start with early onset memory loss. Look at the tape cover on this. It
sounds good to me.
Photocopied, but it comes from a place called Grid, which is in Packardin Street.
Because we're only up to episode 8, and I still have forgotten probably like half of the themed episodes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember them. So this might be helpful to me.
It might be helpful, but...
Although maybe I should start listing them in my notebook.
Handy dandy. Notebook. Yeah, we got somewhere to write all the information so we don't lose people's numbers and stuff. I need to transcribe everything that we've already done. But in the meantime, I'll tell you what I've learned about
There's no
early
words
onset.
in this book.
No, you got to write them yourself. It's where you got to like put time codes to things so you know when to clip out some funny bits for mixtapes and stuff.
What time is it now?
Early onset memory loss. It's called A Conversation with Letty Tennis. So I looked up Letty Tennis. This is actually... Like, as terrible as this video cover looks, like, it looks like somebody made this in Geelong, just photocopied it and put it out, right? Like, there's nothing fancy about it. No, this is an American copy.
It's an American thing?
It's an American thing. Letty Tennis comes from North Carolina. And what happened to her is she started to get Alzheimer's at a very, like, young age. And I say young, she's probably like 10, 20 years older than us still. But, like, that's young compared to it's meant to happen when you're really old. Yeah, and what she did is she kept a diary while she did it.
Oh, no.
So, like, her diary has been referenced in, like, pretty much every medical text that is about Alzheimer's and early onset memory loss. So looking her up, I found like all sorts of references to her, but nothing really about her except for the fact that she's from Northern Carolina. But that's an interesting thing that she wrote a diary about how she used to wake up and wonder where her husband was, even though he was at work. But she got like stressed out about that sort of stuff. But the video itself was produced by Joseph and Kathleen Bryan. And what they do is they are just doctors, do research study things. That's what some doctors do rather than practice. They research study. But they coined and invented a surgical practice on getting the brain out of a human skull as quickly as possible within 1 hour of death. That's what they're known for study, so that they can look into like the Alzheimer's bits in the brain before they
get a saw and just go.
You would think, but apparently it doesn't just come out like an organ like we see in movies. It's more of a jelly that can turn to like mush if you touch it too, like in a bad way. You pop it in the wrong place, it'll just deflate like a bad souffle.
Cool.
So they're from the wait, no, they're not. Yeah, that's all I had. That's all I had. Let's
Brain
watch.
out the nose. You ready?
Brain out the nose. Yeah, that's what they used to do in Egypt.
When's the mummifying one? When do we learn how to mummify people?
That taxidermy video disappeared.
It disappeared?
Yeah, I couldn't get it. Someone else bought it.
Aww.
Early onset memory
are we
loss.
gonna start immediately or?
Yeah. Well, unless you wanna. I just did the spiel. Did you
That's cool,
forget
that's
already?
Cool. Yeah, I did. Do it again.
Oh, God. Just rewatch the episode.
Well, this one didn't even have to track, apparently.
Oh no, this one's quality is beautiful.
We're starting at the highest of tiers today.
Oh yeah, this. By the way, the tape's screwed.
Nobody's tracking. It's just tracking behind the snow.
It's gonna. Yeah, I did rip this before bringing it over, and I did see that it's kind of ruined. We do get some black screen every now and then, and the tape kind of slows down and speeds up.
Cool.
At least it did in my player. Your player may be better than mine. Either way, you're gonna have to head clean after today.
Do I have one of those? I thought I did, but maybe I don't.
I've got one in my shed. Actually, I was planning that we'd actually watch one of them one day because the one that I've got shows images while it cleans.
Cool.
It's got like, it's another Getty Images one. Hey!
Good.
My name is.
Oh, what's this?
Tennis.
Mess Jan. 24 bits.
Ooh.
How you doing?
Hi! We're losing our minds.
Yeah, we're losing our minds today, and apparently we're not seeing anything. Are we meant to have seen something yet? Another 2 bits from...
It'll clear up.
24.
There you go.
Oh,
Here it
we're
comes.
getting there.
So the good thing about this tape being screwed is we get to enjoy the experience of what we used to have back in the days of VHS when we couldn't watch something after it gets ruined, and some people still watch it like this anyway. But the actual video is preserved. You can actually buy a DVD of it for like $1 from this Medical Preservation Society.
cool.
Yeah, it's like this thing that this company that do just back up a lot of stuff. I kind of think I want to go through their DVDs and see if there's anything
We
interesting.
have 3 children.
Hey guys, can you put this onto a VHS for me?
What is that? Oh,
I
we
was
got
working
16 bits?
in a department store where
Look at
I
all
had
them,
Miss Jen.
a
Thank you.
managerial type job.
Itty bitty
No, that's another
bits.
2!
And,
18
Count 'em up.
bits!
so that numbers, I just couldn't make addition and subtraction.
Thank you so
I was
much.
Just all my numbers were getting jumbled.
Welcome, by the
and I
way.
knew that something serious
We're
was
listening
wrong with
to
my brain.
Lady
I
Tennis
kept
talk
thinking
about
maybe I was
how
having mental
she forgets
strokes or
things.
something like that. But
Mini strokes.
I eventually had to quit because
That's what I have in the morning. Dun dun
the
dun.
job just became too
So
much
do we know how long she
for me
lived?
to handle. And I quit thinking I had
No.
severe stress.
Unfortunately, I do not
And if
have
I
much.
quit
As I said, I
and
couldn't
rested
really
a
find
while,
much
I would
information
Fair
about
enough.
it, except for who she was
So
and
I
what
did
she
that.
did.
I quit.
Another
I rested a
2!
while.
They just keep
It did
coming.
seem to get a little bit better, but that's because I wasn't doing
You get
numbers,
enough
and I
of them, you'll
wasn't
have a
having to
bite.
do any orders and
I
work
like
with
a bite.
tickets and all the numbers that I had to do.
They
So I
just
tried to
keep
go
coming.
back to
This is
work.
Probably
ridiculous.
learn some.
There's another 3!
And when I was being trained,
Probably learn
a
about
bunch of
whatever the
other
heck
young
this
ladies,
is.
What, the bits?
the,
Yeah, like-
Each bit is roughly a cent.
assignments they gave to
Cool.
type on these little teller machines.
Do they make
Everybody else
noises?
would be totally done, and I would still
Normally
do
they
my
do, but
machine.
I have
I
turned
just
alert
could not
sounds off because
keep
of
up with
the
it.
fact we're doing a show.
Which was humiliating.
Cool.
The first
I'll
time I
stop
quit
paying
after
too
a
much
week,
attention, except for saying,
and I said,
thank
I'll
you.
be back, because I kept thinking,
Oh.
well, maybe I'll get over the stress. I'll be back. So I
Oh
did.
no, I didn't
tried
write down
again
who
for a
Letty's
second
husband's
time.
name is. I think it's
I
Craig.
still couldn't get it.
Craig?
I think it's
first went
Craig.
to
Yeah,
my
he's the
family
guy with the cool
physician,
mustache.
and
It'll
I
clear
told
up.
him there's
Oh, we're
something
watching.
serious
You missed the
wrong with my
spiel.
brain.
Or did you forget already? We're
Can't,
watching a video called Early Onset
do
Memory
numbers
Loss.
at
It's
all
about how
anymore.
this lady here,
Addition,
Letty Tennis,
subtraction.
she
It's
got
writing is
Alzheimer's,
hard,
and she
and
wrote a
reading,
diary,
and
and she's
forgetting
talking about her
everything.
experiences with Alzheimer's
and
before
I'll
she,
wake up in the night.
2 more
gets
bits!
and just
Alzheimer's
wander
more
around the
and
house.
forgets
And
everything.
I have enough
So hopefully this
to know that
clears up
something
soon.
serious going
Is that a
on.
Christmas tree?
Looks like
So
it might
I told
be.
him about it, and
Or
he
is it
asked
porn?
me
Are
to
we
It's
trying to
not.
watch one of those scrambled porn
Mr.
channels?
President,
See, that would be
that's what I
cool.
was supposed to do.
Another
Explain
5!
Do you think we'd get
things
away
like
with
that,
that?
which was
No,
very
no,
convenient.
No.
Oh, here it comes. We can see
I
things
still
now.
have my
I can
intelligence,
see
but
clearly now. The snow
Thank you
is
so much for the
gone.
support.
it
That's awesome.
comes across in a different way.
It seems like the
Cheers
more
to you.
the more biddies that come through, the clearer the video is, right?
Is that the rule?
Is that what's going on? I don't know. Take it up with the cassette tape.
When I
Oh, this
first
is so
found that I
good.
had a
Don't
problem,
worry, this is only a 20-minute video, so...
No, that's
I
fine.
was the only
It doesn't
one
bother
that
me.
was
Are we already
concerned about
4.5 minutes
Everybody
in?
else wrote it off
Yeah,
as something
absolutely.
else.
We've,
and then when I
absolutely
did find
just
out I had all kinds of
enjoyed the snow.
people would still say,
What about me?
I forget
We haven't had a
things
tape like
all
this
the
yet. This is the
time. I'm
first
always
one that has been this
Well,
damaged.
that's all right. I do that too.
The
It was very
ATV one was
condescending.
damaged in the way
Yeah.
that the sound kept going in and out. It had a damaged
Yeah.
audio
They
track.
just couldn't
But this
understand
is a
what I was
damaged
going through.
video
Video
track.
track,
We
yeah.
haven't had that yet.
I may have
Yeah,
been
it's
one
a
of
first.
those that
That's a
said,
first for the show.
Don't worry about
And
it.
it took us 8
But as
episodes to
time
get a
went on,
tape
I
that has
realized
this
that it was
delicious
happening more and
look.
more.
I think it's
That-
rap.
Dory's here too. Woo! Rat piss.
I think so.
Worse
No.
I think that's what
I
it
kept
is.
thinking this can't,
Maybe.
this can't be
Ew.
Alzheimer's because Alzheimer's is
A very
It's
big
for older
surprise for
people.
the
Oh,
Nice
did you hear that? She
try
didn't
to
call it
get it
Alzheimer's. She
back,
called it
so
old
you get to know
timers and said it
people
can't be old timers because old timers for
time
old
that we
people.
had. So every day we try
I
to
like
make
that.
it count. We gathered them all here. Actually, it was around Thanksgiving, so even her sister.
It's really cool
was
that she
here
did the
from
journal thing,
California.
though.
We
Yeah,
sat
Probably
down
helped
in
like
living room
the
here
scientists
and,
studying it so much.
we
So
read the
many
letter to them,
people.
explained everything as we were told.
So that they
I
can
didn't think
understand
it's possible
not just the
that my mother,
physicals
who was
or
so young,
the
could
whatever
possibly
aspect, the
have
degenerative
Alzheimer's, which I always
aspect
thought
of the
was
personality as well.
something
Yeah,
that
exactly.
people got when they got older.
Just how things shift and
It
how
took
like
several
How they
days
think
of
about themselves.
20
working with
bits!
it, and once I got information
So
on
many
the
bits.
disease
Look at them
and
dance.
read it, I actually
The
was
big pub
surprised to
champs.
see how much
Can
this
you-
book
you
seemed to
can't,
follow my
Customize those,
mother's
can you?
reactions and actions.
Things
No.
that scared me.
I can only customize my
I have no
alerts
explanation as to why
and
they
my channel
scared me.
point rule
Large
thing.
crowds,
Which I have
I
to
would
do that.
panic,
'Cause it's just this little thing here.
Oh,
The
yeah?
dollar dudes have to like make them something.
malls. I do
Oh,
write
yeah.
notes, but then I lose them.
Making
I guess I'm
tapies.
not that logical, but I can follow.
Yeah, making,
Cassette-a-roos.
I stay busy, but I don't think that I'm really coping.
it is Christmas time. Another 20! Jeez.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
I don't think that
Thank
I'm
you.
able to help myself.
Holy crap, dude!
Writing a check. This happened one time. I wrote a check, and a woman.
You're
handed
giving
it
people
back
something
me
to
and
watch
said,
as well,
"What am I
because
supposed to do with
for those
this?"
that don't know, little
And
alert
I had
should
no
play
idea
up
what she was
here, I
talking
think.
about. And so the woman behind me was very
I wanna
compassionate
listen
and
to her
said, "Let
story."
me see what the problem is." And she looked at the check, and I hadn't written the amount. I'd only
Oh,
written
shit,
who it was to,
really?
and I signed
There
my
we go.
name.
So you get to see them looking out on a rainy day
That
before they do math.
terrified me so
That's another
much.
bit, thank you.
She doesn't drive anymore.
I was driving
You forget where
I
you're
can
going.
tell you a story about why people with Alzheimer's should not drive.
Is it because even people without Alzheimer's sometimes forget where they're going? I do, actually. I might even have early onset Alzheimer's or whatever, because sometimes when I'm driving, and Sam and I are deliberately going somewhere, I'm in a routine of driving, so that I go that way, and she's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like,
But
"Oh,
now
I was starting to drive
she
home.
doesn't
I know we're not
drive
going there, but
anymore,
that's
and
just
this
the way
is
I
her own
drove."
It's muscle memory, that.
Yeah,
It sounds like
that's,
muscle memory.
it's more muscle memory.
But one time when I was at work, this lady
I
came
would
up.
have to confront her on
This
this.
is probably like,
Because
it
I
would have
was
been
worried about
8
her
o'clock
making
maybe?
a decision
Yes.
too
like
quick.
7 perhaps. Like, it was
Morning
getting
or
dark.
Came up,
No,
or
no,
getting
it was
lost
getting dark.
driving.
That's 16.
And she came in, she
So,
paid for her fuel, and then
She
she
had a
started to
little
walk out, and she
person that
stopped in the
we could,
door, turned around and said,
One day she did drive.
I don't know how to
my
drive
daughter
in the
got
dark.
to take some food.
and we just thought, oh, okay, no
She
big
told me
deal.
She wouldn't. I think she forgot.
So, what do you want us to do? 26 bits!
You know, a little upset because she came back home.
It's all happening.
It was just down the road.
We're rolling
We
around in
enjoyed
bits today.
Yay!
together.
I got bits all over me.
Shopping we like to
Bit.
do.
Oh, I tell you
Bitty,
what.
bitty, bit, bit.
She still likes
Anyway,
to
this lady,
travel
she,
with us. We always had a great time.
She came in, and then she came back in and said that, and we like, we're just like, alright, so let's try and figure out what's going on here. It didn't take long to realize, alright, this woman has dementia, like, she is...
And I'm glad that
She's not in a good way, so we started making her coffees and stuff. 28 bits!
But there are days that I think that she's almost normal.
Ching,
And then
ching.
something will come
Made her
up
a
the
coffee,
next
sat her
day,
down, and it
I
turned out
realize
that she was from like
this isn't
hours
good.
away.
Oh, no.
I feel
Hours
secure
away. We
with
did
her
all the
home
detective
at
work
this
to
point,
find her family. The cops
but,
didn't
she feels
didn't get there
comfortable here.
before we'd found the
And
family.
right now she knows not to try to do anything.
But yeah, it was.
that, you know,
They had to
might
come
make-
all
be a
the
mistake
way
for her.
to G-Town.
Where
It's
she found
enough.
herself. And I
Thank
do
you so
call
much.
her every day
Cheers to you once more.
from work,
Thank you for the bits.
just to see how she's getting
Mess
along.
Jan
and to
24,
remind her
the
to
legend.
do certain things. I'm the type of husband.
You know what else is
uh,
good?
Yeah.
A year or so
Beer on
ago,
a hot
I
day.
would- She took care of everything. I'd work and bring home the check.
Is it just
She'd
because
handle
it's a
the
hot
kids,
day
she'd handle
and
the
I ran
bills.
too far today and all those
and
factors that this
of
is
course,
really good, or is
everything
it a
else,
really
all I
good
did
beer?
was just work
Both.
to present my
Both, there we
check
go.
to her.
Probably.
And you know,
I like
she
the beer.
handled it. And now it's
I don't
not
think
that
my
way.
homebrew is gonna be
I've
quite
had
as
to
good.
change
Oh, well.
you
Are you
know,
making XPA?
the things the way
Sorry?
they are. And
No, you're
there's
not
times
making XPA,
too,
you're
No.
making stout.
The dark
I
ale is
think
nearly ready.
sometimes
It's
I-
like
I'm
just over a week
she'll- on
away
a
from
good
being
day,
ready.
Okay.
when she's, you know, thinking
And then,
clearly, she'll have a good
I have a
decision on something.
just a proper
But
ale.
I'll, you know,
knowing
try to
now.
override and be telling
But
her
if I
how to
wait
do this
a
or do
while,
that when she knows how to do it. And this can be upsetting to her, you know,
I can probably
being,
put some flavouring in it or something.
being overbearing at times. She and I would always shop
I'll
together,
put some sweet.
Cinnamon.
and we
Maybe
belonged to a
cinnamon,
gourmet
yeah, cinnamon's
club.
not bad, but I
Make
did
it
that.
Christmassy
Kitchen wasn't
flavour.
that unfamiliar to me.
Yeah,
think
maybe.
I
That's
would
not a bad
get
idea.
bored on a typical day
Because
Gingerbread
I
flavor
don't
or
have
something.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
because
drive
gingerbread
anymore.
chocolate is all
I
the thing.
can't get too far
Because
from the
it's stout
house
anyway.
because I'm afraid I'll get
Anyway,
lost.
that
But
lady
a
working
typical
in
day
the
is
groceries,
very
she was
busy
real
for
nice,
me.
wasn't she?
I
What
have
did you do?
I go
Well,
arranging things
This
all the
dementia
time.
lady,
I've
wrong
got
disease, not
notes to
dementia,
write.
Alzheimer's lady,
I'm very
she handed
busy,
over a
but
blank
I
check
suppose if you
that was
asked me what I
signed.
did, it wouldn't seem I was so busy. It just,
Oh, and she didn't
it's just
put.
that it takes
And she
me
didn't just
3
put it in her
or 4
pocket.
$6,000 in
Yeah,
long
she didn't
to
put
do anything
$6,000 on. She just
than it used
said,
to.
you didn't write the
And
price
when
on
George
this.
walks
I
in
used
the
to,
door
like,
with work, I always
If
think,
people
"Oh,
couldn't,
what is
like,
he
if
doing home
people
so early?"
didn't have enough cash to pay for their fuel,
I never
sometimes I would pay
expected to
for
see
it
him.
for them.
Well,
The
it
It
was
seems like
just
the
Jen
day just flew by.
Gets a gift sub
Daddies.
from
I'm
Tori.
much
Thank you,
slower.
Tori.
It takes me much longer to
That's
do
my beautiful
everything.
wife, everybody.
Cleanliness or
Ah,
fixing
there's
myself,
another
doing
thing.
my nails.
They just
the job
keep
that
coming.
I had was a very good job. I was
Ooh.
department manager of cosmetics for Belk
We should just watch this tape over and over again. It makes people want to give us stuff so they have something to watch on the screen.
Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Well, makeup is the one thing that amazed me that I
I was
lost
just
this
doing
ability.
makeup. Wow, this tape really
There's
is
a little
fucked, eh?
sign right here. It tells me all steps to do
Oh, yeah.
because
Oh, did you figure out how long the other one is?
really
No, I don't
hard
think it's
to
long though.
Good. We'll play that in a minute.
And cosmetics are so important to me.
It will feel longer
because
than
I
it
was a
is.
cosmetic representative. And so those things were almost second nature to me.
She going for the pink car? She was
But
going for the
now,
pink
we
car.
call it my compulsory hygiene day. I've got to bathe and do my nails and do my hair all at the same time. I don't
Compulsory
like
hygiene
doing
day.
it.
I need one of
It just
them.
practically
Oh
has to push me into
God,
the
tell me
bathroom.
about it.
So
I mean,
something
I
has changed
don't want to
there
be you right
make
now
me-
because I run here every
Well,
week.
it's
I'm
changed
sure I stank.
100 degrees.
I'm used to your smell. We used to
from
live together,
someone that
remember?
used to print
Did I
them
not
out
wash that
and
often?
do everything, full makeup.
I think
before
it's
I
more
even
we
left
just
the
got
bedroom.
comfortable being around each other when we did
Now,
stink.
I can
Fair
go
enough.
around in pajamas all day and fluffy zippers. I can't go to parties now. It's
Pajamas
just
all
terrible.
day and
Bye, Miss Jen.
I feel,
floppy slippers.
even if the
Thank
people I
you.
know, I just feel uncomfortable. I feel claustrophobic as far as
Oh, well then you should watch the
Um,
next video.
people talking past me to somebody else,
There's another
people talking
bit.
about me to another
this a
person
bit?
while I'm standing right
Wait,
there.
sorry.
I think they
I
feel
get
like
it.
with Alzheimer's, maybe I wouldn't understand what they were saying.
She said old timers again.
But this one instance, it was in a church. This woman was trying to get me to
I'm
do
gonna write
something,
that down so I
and she
remember.
never spoke
Old
directly to
timers.
me. She
Yeah,
always
yeah.
spoke to my husband and said,
Like if
"Let
we
her
end,
do
when
this,
we end
and
up
if she
cutting some
feels
stuff together, I
comfortable
want
doing
old
this."
timers at least in there a few
And
times.
I really resented that because I could have understood her, and even if I couldn't understand her, he was there to help me. But I felt like I was being left out.
I find I distance myself from my mother-in-law because I'm afraid of some of the things I may say, because being real
Oh, wow.
sarcastic with her now can confuse
At least
her.
he's got an
So
excuse to
how old?
distance himself from
Yeah,
a mother-in-law.
I do go
How old
to
would she
support
have,
group meetings
have
with
been?
kids.
When she
And,
got the disease,
they
well, it's
have-
called early onset
Some of
for a
them have been
reason.
helpful,
So
and
But
some
how
haven't.
early?
It just depends on what the
I know
topic
she's
is
pretty
at the
young
time.
looking here for
And
you
but
know,
I think it's
mother.
good to have it to go
grandmother.
to. When she was first diagnosed, of course, neither one of us knew anything about it. The first book we bought, I think, was called The 36-Hour Day or something, and that was one book that we started reading, and it was a great help. And then the last symposium that you all had in February, they had several copies of various type books together.
1992
Which I
is
did
when
buy.
she was diagnosed.
And
92.
basically,
Yeah,
that's
what
the
it
only
looks
way
like.
we learned what to
Tori's saying like
expect.
40,
I
maybe
think the
50.
toughest part right now for me is just watching her days of frustration that she has and will go through because she was very active, as we mentioned before, writing and doing all kind of projects, you know, sewing this and doing that. And to watch her go through a period where the sewing machine meant nothing to her anymore.
I don't have any difficulty answering it, especially if it's one of my kids.
Miss Jen,
Um,
you're
or a good friend.
insane.
But if it's a stranger, I usually don't understand
Kitty.
what they're trying to say, so I just keep saying no thank you.
It
no
cleared
thank
up for the
you.
kitty.
No.
Normal age for early onset. Okay.
Cool.
I think I
Thankfully,
bought
Tori's a
something
nurse
last
who
week.
works with old people, so she kind of knows
Yeah,
this
we're
stuff.
going to find out.
Would process
10
everything that
bits!
she
Yeah, well, I didn't look
totally
up the
forgot,
disease
you
at
know,
all. I'm more
just
interested in the
learning
video
it,
and
she
who.
couldn't learn
why
No,
they
it.
that's
got
fair.
paid
That's
and
completely
who's
fair. I
in it.
understand that.
Things that I
It's
can do.
depressing.
To help her is just to be there for support.
For taking a big pill, I'd have to be careful. So from now on, I take my big pills when he comes home. The only way we found to
The
take
flooding
medication
in.
successfully
We're
is
drowning in bits.
my husband has this pill box, and in 3 sections is our morning,
Why does
noon,
she
and
have
night
to
meds.
take the big pill with him
Now I'll
around?
know
Will
when
she
I take
forget
my
halfway
morning
through
meds
swallowing
because that's empty.
and go, what's in my
That's the only
throat?
way I can do it. If he laid a bottle of pills out for me, I'd probably take them all. Not remembering, not on purpose, but just not remembering. I can turn around. Before this started, I'd take my morning meds, and 10 minutes later, turn around and go to get my morning meds, and he'd catch me.
Oh,
I'd say, I don't
no.
remember taking my morning meds. I said, you
Oh,
did.
yeah?
You did take them. And I love to write. I love to read.
You need a checklist
and all
on a
those things have
whiteboard.
been taken away from me.
Yeah.
When I do write, it's not a good quality. My grammar's bad. My spelling's awful. And I never had problems
Her
with those
grandma's
before.
bad.
But I'm going to keep at them. If
Sorry?
it takes me
Her
all day to
grandma
write
is
one
bad.
page, I'm going to keep at it until I can't do it anymore.
How bad?
But it's harder and harder.
She can't remember.
For each of my grandchildren, I wrote a book introducing myself to them because I feel like they'll never know me because I'll either be dead or I'll be
How many books did she write?
not responsive. The main thing I'd like
can't
them to
remember.
know is that I was a good wife, a good mother,
Bye!
a good grandmother, a fun grandmother, and that I was creative, and that I was
She's way fun
tolerant
because you
of
can
all
ask her
people.
money to
They're
go get
such
candy
cute
at the
children.
shops.
And then come
Over
back.
and
I just
over.
hope
Do
I can
again.
be around for a little bit longer to watch them grow. This weekend, we're going to be taking care of all 4 babies while their parents go to a concert. And as much screaming and yelling as they do doesn't seem to affect me. If anything, I'm more childlike than
Forgets
ever.
about it instantly.
I wrestle with them. Yeah, they're fun.
Wrestle.
I can sit with the grandbabies and read the entire book, but yet
Is that something you should
I
do
don't
with your
understand
grandchildren?
what it
Wrestle
says,
them?
but the children do.
I don't know.
Because after
If
2 or
that's your
3
thing.
paragraphs, I've
If they have
lost
fun and you have fun,
spongy,
why
all
not?
saturated.
Maybe she was
I've
one of the
lost the ability
that women's
to
league in the 80s, and that's why she's
Oh,
got
yeah,
brain
Glow.
problems. Glow,
Read
yeah.
the book in.
Well,
They're cool.
I think for both of us right now,
Yeah, they got a song and everything.
if
Yeah, but
we
so did the
have a
rock and
routine
wrestling, and
that-
that was terrible.
safe for her
They have that
while
cartoon.
I'm at work, and that
We
we
should watch
talk
that.
things out.
Well, I still am a good cook.
I want to see
But
how
I
far
have
we
to
can
wait
push the limits and
for
do
him to
Cartoon
come
Day
home
one day.
before I can
We
start
have to do
cooking,
Cartoon
'cause I
Day
have
one day,
big
'cause we have to
fires on the
watch
stove.
Some of the
So
cartoons
we
that
can't trust
that
me
are in the intro,
to, cook.
like that Billy Goat
While I'm
Bluegrass.
home.
Yeah, but I want to watch something like
Now, when he
Widget.
does come home, I'll start dinner.
Maybe.
For the most
I'd like to do the
for the
lift
most
off
part,
tape, but
I'm
it's all
still a very
songs.
good.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yes.
I mean, I do record the episodes
With my
on my
mother,
PC as well,
whenever
so I
I'm
can
here
just
with
upload
her,
them
I
with the
try not
sound.
to overwhelm her. I have a bad tendency to ask a lot of questions when I get excited about something or talking too fast. So I try to slow down my questions, ask one thing at a time. If I see her get confused, I'll
You know, on a separate
stop,
note,
stop
way
talking
that,
for a while, let her gather her thoughts,
digital,
and I'll
like,
conclude with what she's
deep fakes
asking.
and stuff has
With my
come.
dad, I
I'm
usually
sure you
always
could
try to
use
be
that
upbeat
technology
for
to
him. I think
kind
he needs that
of grab
support.
onto the
I think
good
he
frames of
needs-
this and replicate the rest of it.
Probably.
Every once in a while, I think he needs.
Like, give it another 5 or
to-
10 years, and that'll be
So,
just something we can
when
do
I
with
come
a,
over,
like
I
a click
try
of a
to
button.
always-
Maybe not though, because I feel like
Both these
no one
kids
is
seem
working on that
very
for VHS
lovely.
technology
They love
because
to
most
cuddle, they
people
love
don't
to
care.
hug, and I think
I
it's
guess,
some
but I'm
people
saying the
with my
technology
parents
would be
means a lot to
easily,
them.
like,
They
available
love
with what
being
we've
with
got.
my parents. If,
Not well.
if they could have it
If you
their
know what you're
way,
doing,
they
which
would
we
be
don't, so
here
it doesn't
all
matter.
the time.
Yeah, well, there's
Well,
no
I'll
way
tell
I'll
you
be
one thing
inventing
that
that.
inspires
No.
me is my family
But-
and friends. They're always badgering me about, Letty, you've always been a strong fighter and you can fight this. I try
Yeah,
to
and you
tell
have
them
no
I
recollection
can't
of them
fight
ever
this,
being negative.
but it makes me feel good that they are my little cheerleaders. And I do the best I can.
To the best
but
of your
as
recollection.
far as fighting it, that's out of my hands. Hopefully, all this that we're doing will help get funding for Alzheimer's so that they'll have a cure for our
Alzheimer's
children.
now.
Alzheimer's.
As I lose memory,
It's old-timers,
like
not
if I did something
old-timers. It's
yesterday and I lose
old-timers.
that memory, it
Alzheimer's.
peels away to a
And it's
memory
meant to
that
be
I've long
Alzheimer's, isn't it?
forgotten.
It's got a Z in it, doesn't
And
it?
I've come
Yeah,
up
it's like
with the darndest
Alzheimer's.
things
We're
that I
meant to
have thought
pronounce
I'd
the Z, aren't we?
forgotten years and
Sorry?
years ago.
I believe so.
Even if we're not meant to, I like pronouncing Zs. There's not enough Zs in our language.
Oh, we can't even read the text.
Don't be lazy.
The something something production something.
Yeah, it's all the stuff going on back in the video. It's all good.
Are you sure?
No, not at all. I can't see anything. That was fun.
I'm glad we got that tape.
I wonder if there's
How much did you
anything.
pay for that one?
We didn't. That one came from James. He stole that from his dad when his dad was in being a doctor and stuff.
I'm glad that he did. Thank you, James.
Yeah,
Thames.
Thames. Wait, isn't that a UK production company that used to
Thames.
make cartoons and stuff?
Yeah.
Look, Memory Zone.
I was
Doing
going to say
Scrabble.
Thames instead, but I thought that might make the joke a little bit... It would work a little bit less. It would add too many layers to it.
Well, that was 20 minutes of fuzz that you seem to get a lot of respect for.
I know, right?
We should watch more fuzz. We could watch Hot Fuzz. Or not.
We might get in a bit of trouble for that one. That one might not go over the best.
Rewind that tape.
So this is like... Is this an entirely James-centric day?
It actually is, yes. These are all James
We
tapes.
should have called this James Day.
No, because we actually got like 20 great videos of
Then we
it.
can have James Day 2.
There was so many James Days. You can do it as like a subtitle. Broken Brains, aka James Day. So this one, they think, overcoming social phobia. You didn't send me any information, facts to this, so I didn't look it up. I don't know anything about it. Do you know anything? Can you introduce this in any
Nope.
way? You didn't research it?
Nope.
Ah, I'm disappointed. I'll
I
just read the back.
apologize.
Social phobia is a common anxiety disorder. What else is there in here? Anything interesting?
The whole tape is boring as shit.
It's this is a 1 hour tape.
Mm.
There you go. Duration 50 minutes. Monkey See Productions, 1998. So it's by New South Wales in Australia. Copyright protector. Let's see if I can do a quick look on what stuff is there that I can just see. Whoa! Okay, I got some of your old notes.
Oh my god, die, no,
It just says no.
Isn't the guy's name like Rapey or something?
I think they think Ron Rapey is
Ron
the guy's-
Rapey. His name is Ron Rapey.
Okay, Dr. Ron Rapey.
And then I got really fucking bored and drunk.
And this is before the time of looking things up on the internet very easily. We didn't do that. We didn't know how to do that.
Because our phones weren't good enough to do it.
Our phones weren't good enough to do it, so we actually had to take the time out of the day to do it.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's a 50-minute video. I'm sure we can sort. Oh no, where did I put the other case?
I don't fucking know where you put it.
It's right under my book.
Oh no, don't play yet. We have to rewind it, make sure it's at the start, even though it probably is, because...
I saw the tape in and it looked like it was.
Okay, well, should we start immediately, or...?
Yeah, press play. I'm going to do a quick research on Dr. John Rapey in my phone.
I feel like we might have done it before, but...
That's alright. I don't remember, so... Ugh. Ooh, listen to that music. Hey, we don't have snow this time. Everyone's left. No snow? Whatever.
No, snow, no one
I
cares.
think that they think...
They're here for the snow.
I mean, I use the term social phobia. It's a nice tag. I mean, just
Don't mull
what
over
it's like
those
to be me
gardenias.
is that here I am. I'm on planet Earth. I look around. I see other human beings, and they are doing things that I want to do. They're having relationships. They're happy. They're in families, and I'm trapped here in this body, and I can't do any of those things. I mean,
Must
now
be
that
spelled
I'm
wrong.
further on in recovery,
Well,
I am
wait,
doing
get
some
some.
of those things, but for 30, 40 years of my life,
This is the guy who
I
flies the
felt
kite in the
that-
intro.
Wow.
a cruel joke had been played on me, and that I was trapped in this body, which looks perfectly fine to everybody, but in actual fact that I was extremely disabled.
If you can imagine being in a constant state of fear, constant state of panic with rapid
Eric,
breathing,
that's
incredible
terrible.
muscle tension, feelings of disassociation, which means to me a feeling of not really being connected or in touch with
It's Ron.
your true feelings.
John.
The whole thing is just difficult to explain, but it's very demanding in terms of
Find him.
energy.
There we go.
Ronald Rapey specializes in mental
It's
health,
very, very
especially
hard for
anxiety-related
people to
disorders
understand
across
what you're
lifespans.
going through until
Best
they're
known
actually
for
in your
theoretical
situation.
models of the
Because
development
it's
of anxiety
really
disorders, as
terrifying.
well as for his
You go shopping and you
creation
just shopping
of
is so
empirically
simple to
valid
people that don't have
intervention
social
programs.
phobia.
Okay, so he's one of the people that
Actually,
created
somebody
a
that
lot of
does, it's the
intervention
biggest task.
the
Like, he used to wear me
programs
out. I used to go
that
and do it and come home and I'd be exhausted, a headache,
give to people
cigarette
to
after
try and
cigarette,
get
cups of
over things.
coffee, and
his recent
just
work
horrible.
is focused on prevention as
Well,
well
social
as
phobia is
wow,
an
prevention of
anxiety
anxiety and depression.
of
That's interesting.
That would be
social
interesting to
interaction,
find out
a
about.
fear of social interaction, which can be a fear that you're going to do or say something embarrassing, a fear that you're going to look anxious, but the underlying fear is really that somebody is going to think something bad of you, all right? Or we call it the fear of negative evaluation, that people are going to think that you're not up to scratch, that you're a bit strange, that
I'm
maybe
not
they
up to
don't
scratch.
like you,
I am a bit
that somehow people are going to disapprove of you or not like you.
You're really thinking
So
about
he
being the
works at
centre
the
of
Centre
attention,
for
not
Emotional
in a
Health.
positive way. You feel that you're the centre
is
of
that?
attention
No,
because of some
Macquarie, it's
slight or
in Sydney.
inadequacy
He's from Sydney.
or an incompetence.
Sydney boy.
Sydney
And
boy,
that's what
and
makes
he's
being
a
the
rival.
centre of
I
attention.
have both his phone number and
painful.
email address right here, so we can reach out to him
so
if
it
we
was
really
the sweaty
wanted to.
palms.
Yeah, we
the
are
hot-
going to do
the
whole
hot flushes. I
segments
think
again,
the
but as
ones
I
that
said,
worried me
we'll
the
probably
most
end up
because
doing them
people
as a
that just
cutaway.
see that I was really freaking out all the time.
Well, I think a useful way to think about social anxiety is to view
so
it
easy
as
to
being
find people's
on a
personal
spectrum.
information these days.
And at one end of the
Right.
spectrum
How good is it?
is normal social anxiety, the desire that we all
It's easy to
have
put lots
to
of
be
things
liked
online
and
being like, "Got
respected and
VHS
approved
tapes."
of by people. Then we have shyness, which is perhaps a degree up from that, where people are socially more anxious in more situations, reticent in novel social situations in particular, a little bit hesitant to take the initiative in social situations. That's probably shyness. Then if we increase the level of social anxiety, we get to social phobia. So social phobia is where the anxiety has become so severe that it actually causes discomfort or causes the person to avoid certain social situations. And it's phobic, it's out of proportion to what most people would experience in similar situations.
It is
I'm
very
just watching
scary
my lip
because
crumple up
it's
when
not
she
actually
talks.
like, oh, there's a spider.
You mean
My
like she's
God,
gonna
I'm
cry
scared
or
of it.
something?
It's just
No, it's
something
this
in your
thing that,
mind that's telling you
more
this is
posh people
scaring
have
you,
when
and the
they
more you
fall.
let it overwhelm you,
I
the more
see.
scared you get.
So by the time
Pay attention next time she's on.
I would say 12 or 13, I was actually very, very phobic and had a great inability to function in the world at
I
all.
like his
and,
pink background.
My first experience of actually having a panic
very,
attack was when
interesting choice
I
of a
went to
wall
a,
colour.
I think it was a
Do you think
Saturday
that's his
evening, I went to
personal
a
house, or do you
church
think he's
social
somewhere?
Yeah, I think so.
to try and get in, and just walked up to
Or
the
maybe
door
it's a public
and
place.
then turned and ran for it. And I'm not so sure that I tried too many other things after that.
In social situations,
Maybe you have
people with
early
social
onset
phobia, the
dementia.
main
There
behaviour
he
is
is.
avoidance.
John,
So
Ron
most
Reiki.
commonly they don't even go into social situations because they'll try at all costs to get out of it.
It's the most terror you can have in your body.
Definitely the same guy.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a nightmare you can't wake up from. It's just a totally unexplainable terror, much more
It's
terrifying
not like
than
a
real
nightmare,
terror of, say,
really,
standing on a
because
cliff
it's
edge
so
or
much
walking out in the street, and
nightmares
you're being
for
run
me
over.
at
It's
least
just this
are
really,
things
really
where, like,
strange, overpowering terror.
sometimes the
and,
situation is so absurd
you just
that
run,
you're like,
you have to run from it, you know,
alright,
or you have to stop
whatever.
it, and the way you stop it is
But
to
when I'm like
run
at
away
a
from
party
the
or
situation.
something and
If
I
people
just
do
start
manage to
freaking
go
out,
to the
there is no
social
snap out
situation
of it.
to get involved in it,
I'm done.
then they may
finished
use
for
what
that-
we call
that
subtle
evening.
avoidance. So they
I
may
don't
hide in a
remember my
corner,
nightmares.
or they may be
But,
careful
yeah,
about
I
who
get some of
exactly
this
they
sometimes,
talk to
and I
or
just
what
don't want to
exactly
be
they
places
say.
anymore.
Sometimes rehearsing ahead of time the things that they can say, which actually can be a useful technique when you're learning to overcome your problems, and when you're in the middle of a graded exposure program, that may be one very appropriate step. But it can also be
I think
a
it's
form
more she just
of
has a small
avoidance.
mouth.
I mean, I used to have to
okay.
take my little boy shopping with
And she's
me,
like
so he
really
could
going out of
help
her
me
way
unload
to,
the
like,
grocery
make sure
shopping
she's
because he'd be
talking
centre of
clearly.
attention then to
She's
everybody
someone
who was
who,
standing
like,
behind me. So
has
they'd be
probably
watching
done a
me.
few video interviews
And then
before, but
I'd
not
say to him,
many.
well, give the lady the money, because I couldn't make eye contact with her. And so then everybody thought, oh, isn't that cute, little boy giving the lady money? Then I wouldn't have to worry about it, and I could just stand there and get out of there. And I used to walk out there with horrific headaches.
Ooh, tunes.
The
Whatever this
problem
song
was, and in my teens, my 20s, my 30s,
Why does he need
and
two
my early
buttons?
40s, I mean, I didn't have what I now know. I didn't have the skills, so it was in a way futile what I was trying to do for my level of social phobia. I mean, I was just continually banging my head against a brick wall and trying to just recover by going out and doing things.
Literally or figuratively?
I mean, I made no progress at all.
Treatment can
That's
be
why the hair
very
loss.
successful. There's both pharmacological and non-pharmacological treatments. And I think what's important always to consider is the individual. So we can give rates from research trials to say, yes, well, cognitive behaviour therapy can give this degree of outcome and medication can give this degree of outcome. But it's a bit hard to predict who's going to respond to what. But certainly effective treatments are available.
Probably the most popular treatments would be what we broadly call cognitive behavioural treatments. These are treatments which are really, the best way to think of them is very practical or common sense treatments. They focus on helping people to think more realistically in situations. They focus on helping people to concentrate better on what they're doing rather than on negative sorts of things. And the most important component is that cognitive behavioural treatments focus on getting people to face the situations they fear, to get back into the situations they're concerned about, and by doing that, to teach them that people are probably not available.
Every single pen,
who don't think I'm
every
stupid
single
or
pen
crazy or
is
whatever.
like aligned
And even if they
in
do,
perfect
so what?
lines.
The fuck
I was
is
happy
that thing?
because I knew I had something. I was happy that I had social phobia.
At least I can
and that
recognise what's behind her head.
They could
It's bananas in
identify it, and I
pyjamas
knew that they could
ABC's
make me
chat.
better. Well, not they could make me better, that I could make myself better through them telling me what to do.
She's got a poorly
I was glad.
haircut.
Colour chart.
I kind of got home
Why is
thinking,
it a
yes,
colour
I've
chart?
got something,
Yeah.
I'm not
Oh,
going
that was, yeah.
insane.
Okay, I see. Cool.
For
Either way,
For
it's
people with
banana
social
with
phobia
gin.
to get help, theoretically and technically, if you want to talk that way, they can help themselves.
I do.
And the book that we've just recently put out does provide a very detailed step-by-step program for people with social phobia to go through by themselves if they want. We would, though, always recommend that
I feel
if
like
possible,
if I read a book
people
about
try and
it,
see a
it would probably just
therapist.
get worse.
It's very hard to treat yourself. It's often very difficult
Yeah,
to
but
have
he's trying to
a
sell a
complete
book
understanding of your own problem.
Oh, I get it.
It's
I
very
get it,
difficult to have the
but-
motivation that you might need to go through a very
It's very
difficult
difficult to get the
program.
motivation to read a book.
And it's always good to have someone there to sort of help guide you with the fine details and to help indicate how best to apply the
Maybe it's a
techniques in the
book
program
for
to your own
other,
situation.
Doctors and stuff to read, to teach to patients.
Self-monitoring. Yeah, right.
The first step
Today
is to
I
have any
didn't go
treatment
out.
program really
Didn't
would be
feel
to
like
learn
it.
to get
See
a
you
better
tomorrow.
idea of your own anxiety, to get some more insight is possibly a better way of putting it, so that you can understand or
For me,
see
is there
better,
more than like 2 or 3 people there?
where you get anxious,
Probably
what
not
sort of
going to have as much
situations
of
you
a
get
good
anxious in,
time.
how anxious you get,
How far away
what
from
sorts of
home is
factors
it?
might
The
change
further
that,
away it is,
higher or lower.
the more likely
So
I am to
getting
have a
this
bad
sort of better
time.
understanding can usually come through keeping records and monitoring your
That
anxiety for a
fireplace had
period
its
of time,
mantle
a week,
removed.
2 weeks,
Do I
something
know
like that.
when I'm going home?
Monitoring
If
your
not,
process by
probably not gonna have
writing
a
is
good time.
excellent, and I have done. I did it mainly by journaling, that was my way of doing it. I probably didn't actually use any forms. So what I did was journal, and in that journal I did processes of writing my conversations down. And I think it's a long while ago now, but I probably at times have run through some of those conversations with my therapist. So, any self-monitoring process when you write the thoughts down helps you with this witness mode, and also you can show them to other people, which is very helpful.
You don't need to necessarily use very formalised forms. In the book, we include some set forms because it's often easier for people to have set columns and things like that where they can do their recording. But if people find it difficult to do that, and if they prefer to use an open-ended sort of diary format, or even just to sort of try to keep mental track of the way they behave in situations, that's probably okay. But it probably would be better to try to at least look out for certain types of things. And that's why the forms are useful, because they do point out the sorts of things you should be looking for. With the social situations record, the main idea is to start to get a better feeling for the way you typically react in situations. You might, for example, be going shopping at your local supermarket. So in the first column, where you write down the situation or the event, that's exactly what you write down. Right. You simply indicate shopping at local supermarket, for example. In the next column, then, you would indicate what you were thinking while you were doing that. What was it you were worried about? So, for example, you might have a thought like, I look really weird.
Sometimes when we watch
in the
these
next column, you
videos,
indicate your level of anxiety or shyness or nervousness. And you can use the scale that we put up there from 0, not at all anxious, up to 8, being absolutely terrified.
There's one that we watched just recently, another
Let's say, for example, in this case, your shyness or your anxiety was 5.
Oh, it's the dog one.
So
it seemed like he was telling clientele what he was going to do,
in the next
what
column,
was going to do.
You
and like the video wasn't made
indicate
for
how you
the
physically
clientele
felt
or
in that
the vet.
situation.
It was like an awkward
so, for example,
in-between.
you might
It
have
was
felt
like
tense,
some of the stuff
or you
was
might
for
have
the
been
owner,
shaking
some was
while you
for
were
a vet.
shopping.
I feel like this is taken on the same
In
sort
the
of
final
role
column,
here.
you write down
really.
the types
I mean,
of things that you actually did, the types of behaviours that you engaged in.
This seems more
in
of
that
either a
situation.
clarification
So,
or
for
a thing where it's
example,
like,
while you were
here's what you
shopping, you
can
may
do.
have tried to hurry, and you may not have looked at anyone.
I suppose to a certain extent it allows you to separate from those feelings and take a step back.
When lockdown first started,
take a look at what's happening and how you're
there was
feeling.
like no meat on the shelves. I remember I went to the shop
that anxiety
to try and get some meat.
Or
and I
feeling,
walked in there and there was nothing, like absolutely nothing on the shelves.
From it.
And then when I finally walked out of the shop, I nearly had a breakdown just standing out front of Coles.
Attempt to control it.
So I was just so stressed and like
using
everything was so terrible. That was just the worst shopping experience I've ever had.
Challenging thoughts.
Did you kind of just stand there and
processes.
Kind of wait, try to make it instantly turn into meat? Because Sam sometimes does this thing where she's looking for something in particular, and if they don't have it,
in a situation that's sort of causing me panic. I mean, I'm in a room with
and I
people.
have to kind of pull her away, otherwise she'll just.
I mean, I'm having a big reaction to it, and
yeah, I know. I definitely do that kind of, but it wasn't a maybe it'll appear or maybe like a this is where it should be. It was more of a
someone's going to embarrass me,
and just sort
draw
of
attention to me, and maybe well, look at John there.
Like
he
normally
can't
we
do
can
this,
get everything we need. Now
that's my
that's my experience of my schooling. So
those things are disgusting.
What I'm doing is, I guess I'm thinking thoughts
frozen
which
hamburgers, like
probably they're just not.
I don't know what they're made out of.
No, because even the freezer sections were mostly empty.
So much of our thinking is in fact automatic,
I don't really remember
habitual,
that much.
and rather inflexible. Many of us have made our decisions about ourselves and the world way back and never really questioned it.
A lot of times it's almost...
COVID really brought out the worst in my social phobia.
Were frightened of the world and had no trust of anybody. And it's their attitudes that flow through my head all the time.
I think it did for a lot of people.
I mean, obviously there's times when you need extreme anxiety.
I don't think that's
anxiety,
like,
and those situations are when
social phobia,
you're in an extremely dangerous situation.
People with social phobia.
But there are also times where
for most people
the
it's
level
more
of
of
anxiety
like
you
I'm afraid of
experience
not socializing.
is inappropriate.
No, Sam's anxiety
situation.
leaving the house went up.
And it's those particular
because she's been in
occasions
for so long, it was hard to get her out.
Yeah, it's true. The more I'm in, the more
therapy
difficult I find it
is useful.
And you repeat the whole process.
Now,
Which is
the
why,
whole
like, even
rationale
though
behind
I get really
cognitive
stressed
behavioural
sometimes, I
therapy
always go
is
to Corey's
contained in a
parents'
few
dinner,
principles.
if it's
One
on.
of these principles
Because
is
it's the one
that it's
thing
not
to keep
really
me
what
grounded
happens
every
to
week, and it's
us
the one thing
that
that's like, you know,
determines
you're
how we
leaving the house,
feel,
you can do it.
but it's what we think
Go have a
about
nice,
what
quiet
happens to
meal.
us, or what we think about what is actually going on, what we think about ourselves, what we believe about how we interact with other people. That is going to determine how we feel.
Did that
So if
mantle
someone,
have that blue pot on it
nearby
before, or
me
did they
starts
decorate?
to laugh, I
Maybe they
might think
decorated. I can't remember.
that person's laughing at me and they think I'm an idiot. Then I might feel really embarrassed. I feel really embarrassed
Makes me- 'cause I
because
don't
of that
care
thought
about
that
that.
they're laughing at me, not because the person actually did the laughing. If that person was laughing and I thought that person's laughing at a funny joke they just heard, then I wouldn't feel embarrassed. So it's entirely my
Some of the
thoughts that
anxieties I
determine
get
how
are more
feel,
like, if I tell a
not
joke and everyone
what that
laughs at
person's
it,
actually
then
doing.
they'll think that I'm funny,
The thoughts just keep
and then I'll be expected to tell more funny
going,
jokes,
on
and I have
their own-
nothing.
Nothing.
on their own track.
I'm not a funny
And
person.
CBT is just a way of restructuring some of those thoughts to enable you to get a grip on anxiety and to also provide a degree of comfort.
If your feelings are very
His arms are
extreme, if
standing
you're feeling
out.
very
Because he pauses so long
very
after them.
nervous, particularly anxious or shy or terrified in a
Hope he's
situation,
not watching.
then
Sorry.
your thoughts probably are unrealistic in that situation.
We respect you
I
attempting
suppose
to
the
make
major
changes in your
thrust
life.
of it is
Yeah, but I hope you're not wearing
being
your
able
jeans with that
to
denim shirt.
challenge
It was the
the
90s,
way you think
though.
about
Yeah, double denim
various
okay in the
issues.
90s.
Well, it was never
and
okay, but
to sort of
it
tie
was
that thinking
closer
up
to being okay in the
with
80s and
evidence
90s, I think.
so that you're able to
In fact, denim
get a
tops
grip on
are
your
just generally
fears
not okay ever.
and on your emotions through your thinking process. And
Have a
I found the best way
banana.
to do that is to initially start with a sheet such as this one.
The form that we have in my book goes through several columns. In the first column, it asks about the event. So in that column, what you simply write down is the
Wait, we
situation
covered
or the
this.
event
No, we have to do it
that
again.
first triggered off or started off your anxiety.
So the event for me, it is asking my particular manager a question.
In the second column, you need to write down your expectation or your prediction. That is the thoughts or the beliefs that
Oh,
were
this is a
in your
different
head
one?
that
No, it's the same
caused you,
one.
directly
We're
caused you to
just going
feel
through it and
anxious.
getting
And it's
this
very important
guy's
there to write down all the
actual
possible
answers to
thoughts that
see
might
how
go
to
through
do
your
it
head.
more.
So I have quite a
We
lot
didn't
of
get it the first time.
negative expectations in relation to this particular event.
You know what I want to
And
know?
I write some of them down. One
No,
is
that's a thought for later. It's a thought for
humiliation
Okay.
for asking a stupid.
I'm just remembering parts of the tape that
question.
happen later.
Oh, right.
In the third column, you then write down all of the evidence. That is, how do you know whether those thoughts are true or not true, realistic or unrealistic?
So to challenge that, I
cunt.
look at previous experience, and that is that most of my questions are well thought out and have been well
We don't know
received.
if anything's real. We have to trust the information that's sent by our eyes.
Some
They
additional
could be
evidence is
lying,
the fact
or
that I've done all the
ears, and they
homework,
could
I've
be
worked
lying.
through the problem, and I've spoken to other people about it. And the next point of call is the manager. A third challenge is just the fact that it's reasonable to ask questions. In any work environment, people ask any number of questions. So I would write down here, it's realistic for people to ask questions, and it's also realistic for questions to occasionally be silly or obvious.
You've used the whole fucking page, mate.
And the other evidence
Yeah.
is
You got to have 60-page
I know
book each day.
myself that I wouldn't
I would
berate
need
someone
it.
for asking me a question in relation to work, even if I did think it was slightly stupid. And this particular manager doesn't have a history of berating people or dressing them down
I had multiple managers that were like that.
previous to this occasion, so
That's when you
that's
have
some
to
more
talk
evidence
back
I
and
wrote
be
down.
like, just because it's obvious for you, because you know the answer.
I did. actually.
You then work out some sort of probability for those thoughts.
I think that might be why
is it
I had
very
so many
realistic
issues
based on that
in those
evidence?
last few months
Is that
Probably why I
belief very
don't have a
likely to
job.
happen or not very likely to happen?
Okay, looking at
There
all
were
the
times where he
evidence
would like
I have in this third column.
he would
Initial
say
expectation
why
of
is this a thing? And
being
I would say,
humiliated for
this is
asking
why I would tell him
a
the reason.
stupid
He'd be like,
question.
then why didn't you tell me? And I'm
probably
like,
isn't very
mate, I've told you
probable.
like 4 fucking times.
There's not a lot of evidence based on the past and what I know about this particular person
that guy falls
that he
off
is
a
going to
bridge or
behave
something.
in the way
Yeah.
that I fear. So
Not
I
dies.
can say
Maybe he shatters his
10%.
legs or something and suffers for a while.
I'll write down here in the expectation column. I may be perceived to be incompetent by others.
Next, anxiety.
Now I need
sheet.
to deal with
I
that
feel
particular
like I write
fear.
too much on my anxiety sheets.
And when I look at the evidence
I won't
for
have
it,
room for the rest of my
I come to
anxiety.
realise
Also,
that
printing these sheets costs money. I
if
may
the
not
manager
be
did
able to afford
rant and
lunch.
rave and scream and dress me down
I need to work harder.
after
so
I had
can
asked a
afford more
perfectly
anxiety
reasonable
sheets.
question.
And to do that, I
well,
need to
then
ask more questions.
Others would probably view the manager in a negative light rather than myself, because I know within my own self that the question was reasonable. And I could also go and speak to individual members and explain the situation.
He's got a cup of tea.
And finally,
These
that
days,
should
by
give
the
you a
time
degree of emotion, which
you
hopefully,
have
if you've looked at all
like
of the
gone
evidence,
through all this
and if
process,
you've managed to
you could
make your
have
thoughts
Googled
more
the problem.
realistic, that emotion should be
Yeah.
lower than what it was at the beginning.
We can
And looking
Google
at that
it.
evidence, my degree of emotion has been reduced. At the beginning, I was feeling quite anxious, probably between a 7 and an 8, and now
Self-reported 7
I
or
think
8.
my emotion would be at about a 5.
I guess the point is that you...
It's sort of like going back to
No?
kindergarten. You feel all this
Yeah.
emotion and
I don't
anxiety,
know, like...
and yet the answer's meant to be in sitting down and filling out what appears to be a silly sheet. I suppose the only thing that
but
enables,
it's not for me.
Enables me to keep doing it. I don't have to do it as much anymore because a lot of it's internalised. But the fact that it works.
Lots of forms will do much the same sort of thing, and there's no right or wrong form. The important thing is that people can at least learn to identify the situations and their unrealistic thoughts, and that in some way they can learn to come up with more realistic
It's
types
disgusting.
of thoughts. And as long as they're doing those things, it doesn't particularly matter which form they use.
These are the forms that we had to do at the Anxiety Management Centre while we were on the course. It was the actual irrational thoughts and the rational thoughts of how we had to set it out, and that way I think being down on paper, it makes you realise that it's working. The situation was
I'd find a way.
coming to video me, so I'll put down being videoed.
Videoed.
Nice spelling mistake.
Oh,
You're nervous,
nasty.
but you also think to yourself, what if I make an idiot
That's
of
why
myself?
she's nervous. That's why she made
What
the
if I make
spelling
an idiot of
mistake.
myself? Because I always think like that.
Does she own a fish and chip
Myself?
shop?
Then
I make an idiot of
another one is
myself
what
at
if I
least
go
twice
red?
a week.
Because that was one of my main things, was what if I go red? What if...
Funnily enough, I'm on camera like twice a week.
What's wrong with going red?
And another one was...
You are red. Look
what
at your
if I
hair. You're on fire.
can't explain myself
She's
correctly?
got that classic
Just put
Pauline
explain.
Hanson haircut.
Poor lady.
No,
Really
rational
didn't like that
coping
cow.
thoughts of... So what if I make an idiot of myself? Because they can edit it. So I put that down. They can edit
But
it.
they're not gonna.
They are not gonna.
And what if I go red?
Not in the 90s
So what if I go
anyway.
red? Because it's a video on social
No, don't
phobia,
leave it all
so it
in.
doesn't make any difference because everybody else probably did the same thing as I do.
Just change the white
Put
balance.
social phobia video.
They didn't though, did they?
Nope.
In fact, even if she hasn't gone red, it's already way too orange
And
because of our
trying to
stupid
explain
Australian
myself.
sun.
The people that have social phobia will understand what I'm trying to put across because they're all suffering the same as me, so they will
It is
be able
something
to
weird that we
understand
notice
me,
about the Australian
hopefully.
videos.
So I
They
just
seem
put
to be
down...
more orange than the rest.
They do, yeah. You're not
People
wrong.
can
Not just their
understand me.
skin, but like
Just gotta
the
put
video
down
tone
Just
in
the
general.
tint, yeah.
the logical
tint
way of
seems
thinking
to be...
to your unlogical
But I
way of
guess,
thinking.
again, that
is the way I
is
look
just the
at it.
fact that we're a warmer
I
country,
think
I guess.
for the realistic thinking
Maybe.
part of things, it's really important to use a form, at least for a short while. For people who really don't like using forms, I think this is one area where they really should try to get into the discipline of using a form.
I was going
even
to
if it's
say
just for
maybe
a
they're
couple of
copies of his
weeks.
book, because they look like spines.
Many of the things
but no,
that
it's
you
not long
do
enough
or you have
to-
to think about, like
I don't know what they are. It
CBT or
disturbs me.
restructuring
It
your
bothers me
thinking
a
or
lot.
challenging
He's
thoughts
moved away from his bananas
become
onto the fern.
automatic the more you use them. And as well as becoming automatic, the response time's reduced so that you find yourself very quickly challenging
Go back
thoughts
to
that
the
you've
nice old man.
always regarded as being absolute or
The
concrete.
old guy's still alive.
It's doubtful.
He'd be in his 70s or 80s now, probably.
It's very hard to get anywhere with it without challenging yourself and without putting yourself directly in these situations that you hate. Because there's no opportunity to put into practice the various techniques you've learned or to use those tools unless you're in the situation. It's only when you're in the situation that you can experience it all and adapt things to work for yourself.
Well, the behavioural elements of cognitive behaviour therapy involve going out and testing out your realistic thinking in real life situations. But it's easiest if you do that in an organised and structured fashion that also allows you to progress at your own tolerance. So to progress at a rate that you can tolerate in terms of how much anxiety you choose to confront. And psychologists call this technique graded exposure. So the exposure part means that you're actually exposing yourself to the things that you fear, and the graded part means that you do it in a step-by-step fashion. And what we get people to do is we actually get them to start by tackling the least anxiety-provoking situations. And as their confidence grows, they work their way up to being able to tackle the more anxiety-provoking
Hold on a
situations.
minute.
I don't believe in that. Because I found that I have these times where, like,
well, I mean, it's actually
I get really.
the first stage very much nowadays is to.
I make progress, I guess, but then one bad thing happens,
that's a
and then it's all gone.
major part of the process for me.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
It's
He was parked on the wrong side of the road.
He was, yeah, absolutely.
tackled things too
But that's
difficult.
because
So
he doesn't
now
walk across the road
it's
to get to
picking a
his fucking
task.
car.
The first step is to try to work out
Also,
what
always
the
want to go
situations
that way
are
because
that
McDonald's
you're
is
going
that
to
way.
expose yourself to.
So he'd rather
To do
park
that
on
very
the
simply,
wrong
all
side
you
of
need
the
to do
road.
is sit down and brainstorm.
Across the road.
You can do it by yourself, or you can get a friend or family member involved, and try to think about all the different possible situations that you might be afraid of. You then need to try and put those into some sort of order, what we might call a step ladder or a hierarchy. That is to start out with the ones that are easiest, that don't make you too anxious,
Maybe some kind
and
of
then to put those
pyramid.
up step by step all the way up to the ones, or the one that's the very hardest of all.
The first time I go there, just go, make an inquiry, and come home, and so I build up to what I'm doing in gradual steps. So if it means going into a dance, a bush dance like tonight, or other forms of dancing, I will probably go the first. I will just drive there the first time, go in the door, and make an inquiry.
We've got a narrative now. He's working his way up to go into a bush
and then I know the lay
dance.
of the land, and
Can't wait to see how this narrative plays out.
sort of establish what's going on there, and then the next time I'll maybe go in and
For someone with
try and
social
join the
anxiety, is it
dance,
really safe
but
for him to be
give myself
doing an
permission not to
interview
stay
in the car
long, and
while
then
driving?
so the
Yes.
process to go out is very much about
No more dangerous than anyone else
planning,
doing it because he
and
is
so that I won't set myself any task that's
just
going to
talking
scare the hell out of
while
me
driving.
and
Still paying attention to the road.
and make me
Once
unsuccessful.
he gets out of the car,
in
that's when the real
achieving my
shit
goal.
starts.
Now, there's a few important rules about graded exposure.
This guy
Oh, God,
walking
now
across
that's-
the road
If you
with
really
a
want to
tinny
get
in
the
his
most out of
hand.
the effort
It's
that you're
thirsty,
putting in
right?
at
That's
confronting these
Australia.
anxiety-provoking situations. So firstly, whatever you do, you have to do it frequently. If you just do something this month and then you wait a month and you do it again, then your anxiety level will probably be just as high about it. So you really have to do it frequently and repeatedly and at close intervals until you master the anxiety.
Definitely didn't understand it quite as well back here.
My goal tonight is to get in the door, join the dance, and
feel
stay
like
for about
that
half
with
an
most
hour
of the tapes we
approximately.
watch.
I don't
Sorry?
actually really
I feel
watch.
like that with most of the tapes we watch.
You're not wrong.
And on top of that, they really
That's
didn't
what it's
understand
about,
how
and
to
then,
portray an
you know,
interesting message.
I feel reasonably
They just put
confident
stuff on a
at this
tape.
point in time.
Well,
that
I
can
don't know.
do
The
that.
guy who was training the dogs, he was
And then I
great.
just have to keep on
Yeah,
doing
he's
that.
alright.
It's not a case of
He
doing it
hates
once or twice or
people. I
three
love him
times.
so much. He's just
It's
like,
a case of just
don't care about
continuously
you.
doing it
I
for
want the
however
dogs.
long
But
it
at the same
takes
time,
for
if
me
you
to
look
feel
at the
safe
narrative of that video,
in that
most
sort of
of it was teaching
environment,
the
and
dog how to
then maybe
sit.
after
And
3
then we got
months
to
or a
see the
year,
dogs.
or
Yeah,
five
because he
years,
has
I don't know how long,
no
I'll
faith
start to
in
enjoy
people
it.
to teach their dogs how to sit.
The
So
other
he's like, well, he's
important
just spent
thing
this
is
whole
that
time
you
being
must
like,
stay
this is
in
how it
the
works.
situation
You
until
stay
you
quiet
feel
to other
your
things,
anxiety
and then you
level
give them-
start
and
to
then-
diminish. If you escape a situation as your anxiety is rising, then it actually tends to reinforce your anxiety about that situation. And next time you'll be just as anxious, if not more so.
Even if I do have a panic attack at any stage, my training and recovery says I must stay there. You know, like if I allow myself to run while I'm having a panic attack, that will set my recovery back. I haven't done that for a while, so if I have a panic attack, I have to take myself off and sit there till the panic attack goes, and then it's okay to leave. So.
The other thing is that you can't bail
That's a
out
pretty
and
good
avoid
point,
it,
though.
deciding that you're really too anxious about it after
There are
all.
times where, like, if I
You've
even just
got
like
to
walk out of the
try and
venue,
set your task
I'm like,
levels
I'm kind of panicking
to be
right
at
now,
a level that you
then
could
I'm
cope
not
with
going
even
back
on a bad day. And then, even if you're feeling anxious, you do it anyway. So you do it in spite of feeling anxious.
I've done things like
this tape is too real to me. I think
deliberately get lost
It's
when
too-
I'm going
it's too real to
somewhere and
me.
I don't know where to find it. Well, actually, I make damn
Too much
sure
a
I don't
legitimate
find
part
it,
of my life.
and just drive around lost in the suburbs where I'm quite capable of pulling a street directory out and finding where I am. But I just, you know, it's like
Just use the
it
GPS
was
on
in
your
the
phone.
past. Find any excuse not to do things, and
The other important rules are not to take substances that will artificially diminish your anxiety about a task. And that includes tranquilizer medications, alcohol,
Bugger.
and the other substance a lot
Bugger.
of people take is Inderal, which is a beta blocker, propranolol is its real name. That's sometimes prescribed by
What about
doctors to
marijuana?
help people manage their anxiety. So you
Propranolol?
shouldn't take any of those medications.
Probably
You should
not.
take if you're on an antidepressant, take
I
it
love
as
how
usual
she
every
just
day.
implied that alcohol
Don't
was a
take anything to
medication.
get you through a
Isn't it?
particular situation.
I
You
mean,
need
I've
to
never heard
actually
it prescribed
confront
for
the
anything.
anxiety that it causes.
But if so,
and
I should go
master
get
it.
that so I can get cheap
well,
booze.
I'm going to walk up the street
Yeah.
and
Get the safety net.
probably,
Get free
I'll
booze
probably,
every 20
I
days
think I
for
will
the rest
walk
of
around the
the
block. I think I'll just say, well, I'm going to walk around the block. I'm just going to walk past to sort of look at the venue, see what
That's,
where the
it's
entrance
pretty
is, what's
cheap
going
to
on
do my
there,
own, so.
and then just probably, well, no, maybe not even round the block, but walk past, just sort of get myself together, my act together, and me just calming down and go in and do a couple of dances, maybe, hopefully so, a couple of dances and half an hour or so in there, and then come out and see what happens. I mean, I don't know what will happen, so let's do it and we'll see.
You're focusing on what he's saying. I'm listening to the birds in the background.
They were
Well,
very
it's harder
loud.
than I expected.
I get those at my house as well.
I walked around the front of the building, and it's
In my
about to be
earlier
demolished,
videos,
and the main entrance is all
like
blocked
that
off
on
with
my video,
fences, you
so
see.
I've got the gates and
And
stuff.
then I walked, and I had irrational thoughts. I thought, oh God, they'll all see me walking around outside, and I could hear the music. Anyway, I came back, found the entrance, and calmed myself down, went in, and it was like my worst fears, as I walked in the door, and that is, it was a very big hall, and there was hardly anyone there at all. There was only about 12 people there, and but anyway, no, well, and then I actually knew the person leading not that he knew me, but I knew the person leading it, and I had met him before, and
Huh?
they do this, when it's a small group like that, you can't just slide in anonymously and hide in the corner, and of course, immediately as I'm finished paying the money, this loudmouth extrovert is saying, "Okay, 3 new people are here, come and join the circle." And I go, "Well, this is what I'm here for," so, you know, and got labels, name labels, and what's your name, and, you know, which is all sort of, you know, I bet it's fine, and anyway, so I joined the circle and learned the dance, and did the one dance, and I gave myself permission not to do the steps properly, and I did one dance, and then at that point they were having a break anyway, so I went and sat down for a few minutes, and I thought, it might be better to stay and do another dance, but I was just pretty drained, and I thought, no, I'm coming out now. So it leaves me sort of 50% celebrating, because it's just like another step forward, but then another half of me says, you know, like, it's quite ridiculous. It seems ridiculous to drive for, you know, an hour across town, pay $10, go into a bush dance, be in there for 4 minutes, and then come out again. But, you know, I mean, it's only in the last 6 months that I've even been able to get in the door. So it's just another step forward. It's, you know, it's about recovering from social.
What I was going to say was kind of on this,
and I just leave me feeling totally drained and not really feeling anything really. It's just, thank Christ that's over, or something like that, you know, and just, you know, let's go home.
Now, the other really important thing is to acknowledge when you've achieved what you set out to achieve. Don't change the goalposts after the task. Don't come home and say, yeah, well, I did that, but I really should be able to do so much more. It's not helpful. Focus on the step that you've taken, not where you think you should be. So get rid of shoulds and allow yourself to take some pride in achievements, because that will help to motivate you to take those other steps.
But anyway, I did it, and I joined in and did one dance, you know, so that's sure is better than sitting at home for 10 years, you know, not doing anything. So, yeah.
Good stuff.
We all are extraordinary, but social phobia took that away from me for so many years, an anxiety disorder, where I had no sense of the sort of wonder of being a human being, and just anything is possible, and if you're motivated to do something,
I'm not sure.
you can, you know, it's never easy, but you can, do things and become things, you know, if you have a vision to get somewhere, it is possible to do it. And,
why is that a thing?
And everyone has this courage inside them. And
look at why were the 70s so
one of the places to sort of get in touch with all of that is in groups.
In any disorder, obviously, it can be really helpful to be able to have the chance to meet some other people who know much more closely what you've been through than you've probably been able to explain to anyone before. But there are some particular reasons why group treatment in social phobia can be so valuable. And one of those reasons is that if you go into a group with other people, then right away you're doing some exposure
Does anyone
treatment.
know why?
Because there you are having to sit and perhaps interact with at least a few other people.
Because you're just working so hard and you know
they
how
got
to do it.
cookies.
You know,
I'm not going to read that whole thing.
Yeah, it's almost like a training, you know. You have to.
Well, I wouldn't have recovered without support groups. I mean, they were the place that I overcame my fear of being in a room with other people and talking.
It's very hard to explain to somebody that hasn't had it before. So people that have got it, you can, like when I went to the group therapy, it was just really, really good, because you sit there and you think, I'm not the only one that's weird. Everybody else has got it too. It's really good.
When you get all the symptoms.
So to come along and see other normal people is often a great relief, because many people have labelled themselves as weird, strange, to have this problem to start with. I mean, that's where a lot of the depression comes from, in fact, and people with social phobia tend to be terribly self-critical.
When I went to the group, I was very nervous, and kind of when people walk in, I'm like, hello, you're kind of very iffy, because and then you sit down and you think, you look at them, you know, when people aren't looking at you, and you think, you've got the same problems, you've got social phobia, this is great, because just talking amongst the group, you realise everybody suffers. I mean, some of them are worse than me.
That's good, yes.
everybody suffers the same things as you do. It's a really good feeling. It sounds a really silly thing to say, but it's a really good feeling to know you're not the only one with social phobia.
The courage of people who've never been into a room with people, who do it for the first time, and people come to groups who've never been to groups before, and sometimes people will come to groups where their spouse has an anxiety disorder, and and then people are doing it, and you see people recover, and it just takes enormous courage.
Enormous. Managing medication.
The reason that I'm able to totally detach from myself and sort of like be a witness is meditation, and not as much actually doing meditation as learning what meditation is. And meditation is shutting your thoughts down so that there is a place in you where you're just observing your mind and it's totally silent and peaceful and empty, and a thought comes up. And what you try and learn to do in meditation is you just say, watch the thought. It's like a paper aeroplane, it might say, hey, you've forgotten to put eggs on the shopping list. And you go, oh yes, an irrelevant thought, and you just let it fly past.
Is that a type
and you learn a technique of
I think it's just
you're not your thoughts.
I guess it is a kind of
You're sort of, you've got like a spiritual essence above that, and it's just like tapes running through a tape recorder, and they're going all the time.
Can't wait.
And it's probably
This
through
is the
that
beer that I drink
learning
most
that
'cause it's so
meditation
cheap.
technique. I have to say I'm not very good at doing it.
It's like
but I do
$30
understand it,
for a
and
30
the
pack.
understanding
Hot
I do
damn.
tend to.
That's like $1.
I just remind myself that
it's probably close to like $1
I'm essentially not what I'm thinking.
It's 1.3 standard. Gets me going. Gets me buzzed because I put 2 cans into a pint glass.
Now, medication has also been shown to be effective in research trials where it's been compared against a placebo. And the medications that have been studied include tranquilizer medications and antidepressant medications.
Beer?
However, because of the problems that are associated with
Tastes
tranquilizer
like I
medications,
remember my
like the
grandfather's breath used to
benzodiazepines,
smell when I was a child.
that would not be anybody's suggested
If that
first
makes any
line of treatment
sense.
now, because they have
You know, I was
problems
just
with
thinking it kind of
dependence,
almost tastes similar to
they
what I
often
remember beer
cause
tasting like when I was a kid.
drowsiness and
it
head
tastes like
reactions
typical
that
beer
interact with
kid
alcohol.
taste.
Like,
And
not
they
good.
don't really get a sense of mastery over the problem. So
It
we
tastes
wouldn't
like,
be
why do you
suggesting
drink this
those
when there's
as
Coke?
first line treatments.
Give me some soda pop,
Antidepressants
Grandpa.
Exactly.
have been shown to be quite effective. They've been shown to help people to feel
now my hair's gone grey
much
and
more
I'm
in
the one
control of
drinking
their
it.
anxiety, and to be
I'm
able
not
to
grey
go
yet.
out and do the things that they had
Oh, yeah.
previously been avoiding.
Getting there.
A drawback
I think occasionally I
of
get greys in my
medication is
beard.
that
But
studies so far seem to suggest that it only works as long as you take it.
Pops on camera
And I
because
think
otherwise
that's a
it's
real
too blonde to be
problem,
able to see. But
because
I had
it
this
doesn't
one
appear that
at the top
you could
on
say
this
take
side,
it for
left
a
side,
year
and it's
and
just
then
pure.
you'd be
Can
over
you
it.
see it?
I think I guess it's
pure silver.
Unfortunately, there's a very high
yeah, I think
relapse rate.
I'm like,
it
look at that
stands out.
little silver foxy.
That's
Yeah, I
something
can
we
see
have to
it. It's
consider,
there.
particularly in countries
It's not
like
just grey,
Australia,
it's like
where
shimmery.
Lots of people, for example, in rural areas, don't have access to cognitive behaviour therapy. That medication is worth considering. And I'd also add
we're talking
that
about medication.
very, very many people with
You shouldn't
social
put
phobia become
medication and
significantly
medication as
depressed.
two separate
And in that
chapters right next
case,
to each other.
there's a much
You probably shouldn't,
stronger
no.
case for using an antidepressant medication.
Setbacks. Here we go.
Yeah, there'll always be times where you sort of bite off more than you chew. Or the circumstances push you a little bit further than you want to go.
I think this is one that we're going to keep.
Okay.
It's easy to have
Because
a
I
relapse during
find
those
that
times
it's
when you
just like it's
avoid
such a
everything
typical like
and everyone.
Here is your problem kind of tapes from the time.
Have I had setbacks? Yeah. Well, sort of life was a setback, really. I mean, it's only relatively recently that I've had a period where I've gone maybe 8 or 10 weeks without having some sort of a setback.
There's nothing wrong with taking a step back and moving forward enough to challenge yourself, enough to feel the discomfort, to feel moderate to high
I was
anxiety.
going to say, you can tell they're not actors.
Well, definitely not.
And once you're
then
in
again,
it and
so
feeling it,
neither are a lot of the actors we
then
see on like
you can
local
use the
ads
tools to
before
help
cinema
control it.
stuff.
It makes you
I
feel a
miss
bit
going
down
to
because you
the
think, oh my
cinema.
God, I'm going to go back to the same old social phobic
Going to the
person. But
cinema
you
was the
don't.
best
There's
thing
always
for, like,
ups and downs and getting better.
Sam's social
So that was my
anxiety.
downer. It was just
Well, you
having a
thumbs
hot
up
flush
then.
and feeling anxious. But
Mention cinema
you know
ads.
how to deal with it.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
kind of looked at myself in the mirror and said, well, you're going red, so what? That's
All
it.
of those ads.
I did my breathing
especially
again
the
and
local
I got back
ones,
to normal. I finished off getting my
They
hair done.
don't edit
The main
bit
thing is simply to remind
before they
yourself,
start
I've
walking
overcome this
towards the
before,
camera
I
properly.
know how to do
So
it,
they're
I've got
always
the
standing
techniques and
there,
skills
and
to
then they
overcome
start
it,
walking
and simply
towards the
go back
camera.
to
That one was
starting again
ridiculous
at the
because he
beginning
stands
and
there for like
working
5
through
seconds, but
the
it's meant to be a
techniques
freeze
that
frame
have
where
been
he's sitting there
past.
with his thumbs up, but they don't
When I'm
freeze the
having a
frame,
bad
he just stands
time,
there,
I
so you
go,
can see him kind of
well, I
wobbling.
haven't lost
and
any
like,
gains I've made so
oh,
far.
it's brilliant. I wish we
and
could get copies
that's
of
my
all those
experience
ads.
that,
Probably could. They're probably online.
you always
They're not-
I've looked
keep
for the
gains
Good
you've
Guys
made.
one, and it's not.
And so
We leave our heroes.
You can't just read a book and you can't just be told by somebody. You have to learn it
I
for
can't just read a
yourself
book
by
anymore.
getting out there.
Literally,
and having a
someone
go at
just
things
telling
that
you
you've
is
been
the worst
avoiding,
thing ever.
in conjunction with training
'Cause no
yourself
matter
to
what
think
Hey, why don't you just
realistically
come in here and sit
about
down? You'll be
that
right.
situation.
Oh, will I? Cool,
If
I'm glad you know.
progressively exposed yourself
that's funny because
to
like
situations you may
the
well
most insensitive thing
get out
to
into
say
the world,
to
but in actual
some of
fact
these
you're
problems,
doing it
the mental problems,
with all
is
this terror
also
leading
right.
up to it, and
It's just
my
terrible.
belief is the terror
Yeah,
would
well-
stay, and you sort of.
But the thing
sort of
is,
have
though,
sort of a
like
recovery,
if someone says, "No, just
by
come in and
working
do
on
it,
your
you'll be fine,"
thinking,
and I go in there and I
then
just
that
start
sort of,
panicking and have a shit time, then no, I won't be
sort of
right. I will
quietens
not be
down
all
the
right.
It's also
unhealthy
part of
part
our
your
language
mind,
to say,
and then the
"She'll be
combination
right,
of
it'll
the
be
two.
right."
Yes, but I mean,
works
like,
really well.
It's like an
So you
exclamation mark. at the
join
end
the
of
thinking and the
sentences.
doing.
yes,
to
but
get
I mean,
out
in the
there
context
and
of
work
like,
Yeah.
overcome
this
your
person is
anxiety,
struggling, maybe if I
well,
just
to
tell them
master
not
it,
to.
really, so that you can do what you want to do in spite
Yeah, that's
of your
absolutely
anxiety.
not
It's the same as it's just like
Graduated
if someone was in the
exposure,
gym and they tried to lift a
finding
certain
other
weight and they
people who
couldn't.
have the same
It's like someone
problem,
goes,
going
like,
to
just try
support
again, you'll
groups,
get there.
getting
Just do the
professional
same weight.
help.
Don't even take a step
it's,
back.
you know, it's not
Just
one
keep
of them
trying.
that fixes you. It's all of those things, you know. And for different people, it'll be different things.
If there's one message about the treatment of social phobia, it's that no matter how long you've had it and no matter how bad it seems to you to be, something can be done about it.
Don't think you're going insane because you're
You
not.
get a
There's a
puppy?
lot of people out there with social phobia, and you can get better. Well, you will get better, because I did, and everybody else in my group did too. So there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Social phobia is not a deadly disease, so you can get better from it.
It's important
Oh, I did.
to try and do things that
What is
you
that?
still enjoy. Not to spend too much
Park
time
bench?
focusing on
No,
what
on
you
top.
can't do.
Yeah,
and try to
I was
spend
trying to just get the
enough
scenery right to
time
figure out what it could have
doing
been.
what you
like,
can do
brick
and
wall.
following up
That's
on
a
those
pretty cool
things
sitting
that
area.
do
And it's out
provide
in public
respite
too.
Probably been
and
demolished.
a break,
Aw.
and also provide a feeling of well-being.
4 months
Church
ago, I
with
went to a
pockets.
support group and actually shared that I thought,
Yeah,
although
that
I
one.
would improve my life a
Kinda.
little, I would never
Yeah, cool badge,
recover. And I've believed for 50 years
I should
almost
put
that
all
I
my
would
Chelsea
never recover.
badges onto my
And
Chelsea
in the
shirt.
last 4 months, I now
I have
believe
lots.
I will recover and function.
I should get you.
Certainly
can I
do
get
everything
badges
in the
made?
world that
Yeah.
I've
I'll
ever
get
wanted
one
to
of
do.
my first
Because
girlfriend.
I see a world out there which
Neck
is
in the bar.
unavailable to
Yeah.
me.
Her
Which
name is
is,
Chelsea. You can put that on your Chelsea
you know,
shirt.
friends, relationships, social life, and I've got a sufficient
He's
taste of
flying
it
a
now
kite.
to know
It's
that
like
it's
the
possible.
end of Mary Poppins.
And,
It's like the
and
end of our
whatever
intro.
happens, whatever negative things happen, whatever
Did he shave off his
setbacks I have,
mustache?
you
Was
know,
that his
my
problem the
spirit
whole time?
to get out there and get into it is much stronger,
Oh, no, it's
you
just
know, and
black coloured
and I will
blending in.
recover. I am
As I said,
determined
the
to
scar.
recover.
I've never flown a kite.
Neither have I don't think.
Maybe we should reach out to Eric, John, or Lisa.
I think I can find
Is
them.
that why we got confused with John Rapey? Maybe you wrote it down right and I just got it wrong.
Yeah, Ron Rapey was the guy.
And John was that guy.
Yeah.
John and Ron. We should look up Philippa Harvey and see if we can get in contact contact with her and say that she did a really bad job editing us together. There needs to be more of that dead space cut out. This could have gone for at least 5 or 10 minutes less.
Yeah.
Hey, look, Rory O'Donnell. You can find out the guy who made all this cool music.
Cool. Get him to make us a tune.
Yeah. Based on his book, Overcoming
Good
Shyness
book,
and
okay.
Social Phobia.
Does he have it?
Available in stores now. What?
Does he have it, you reckon?
What do you think? He's got social phobia?
Maybe.
The doctor? No, he's a doctor. Doctors don't have any diseases. They fix diseases.
See, I always thought they just took them and put them in themselves. I thought they were just good, selfless people who were taking your sickness and...
Yeah. Well, that was a bit of a journey.
I love that tape.
It wasn't as long as you made it out to be. 50 minutes didn't seem to go by that slowly.
No, you're right, but maybe we're just in a good mood today.
Maybe.
Because we've had no technical issues, and I just went out there, like,
that
after
we
I
know
I
of.
checked about, like, with Tori if the audio's all good and stuff,
Oh.
and it seems all fine, so
we got no technical issues, and we got bitty bits.
And we got bitty bits.
Yeah.
But if there is a technical issue, the only one that I can think of that it might be is maybe the computer that is, like, streaming them is not actually recording.
Or maybe it's dying. You said
Well, it's probably dying, but I mean, that is not an issue right at this very minute. Like,
No, yeah.
we've gotten this far without it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so everything seems fine this episode thus far.
Right. Cool. We could get on to our next tape.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I think the next tape we should do is early onset memory loss. It's a video that...
Okay.
What?
So, who's it by?
That was the joke. Sorry.
I was going along with it!
Yeah, I didn't want you to go along with it. Because I don't want to waste the time. The next one we're doing is Dementia. That's the next brain problem we got. Put out by Peninsula Psychiatric Services, which Peninsula, as you know, is kind of where we're at.
Oh, I like that. No tape inside. Look.
We're not far... Oh, sorry. Put it in.
That's cool. I was just dicking around.
This also came from Grid, which is wherever the hell Grid is. That's where James stole all these tapes from. So this is actually an Australian one, unlike the first one that we had. It can't come from some sort of library. The cover is fantastic, I think. It's not only is it some sort of frickin' photocopied thing, but it's got all these little bits cut out and stuck onto it, and
is that folded?
Yeah.
As in, like, take it out. Is it folded?
Oh, you think we might be able to find something? Nope. It is a folded bit of paper, but it's not even frickin' A4, is it?
No, because don't...
Is it? Yeah, that's A4. That's fine.
Maybe?
But it's got stickers all over it. Instead of printing it, they printed stickers and put it... And they've done this weird fold. I don't even understand what they were thinking when they made this copy of the videotape. Seems like they got it copied by a really cheap copy guy.
So,
do we know any copy guys?
I don't know, do we?
VHS copy guys? I think we do. I'm going to put this over here instead.
My thing right now is that I'm thinking that the first two videos were bearable. That means this one's going to be really fucking awful.
No, I don't think that it will be. Although the tape... Okay, anyway, what did I find out about this? Dementia. Kevin Summers is introducing it. He is a man with a mustache. He is a soap actor.
Cool. Does he have dementia?
No, he's acting. This is an actor.
Is he acting as like he has dementia?
No, unfortunately. He's just acting as a presenter. But he is known for being in soap shows like Prisoner, which, if you remember our pre-OTT episodes, my old media teacher, Mr. McGain, was also a star in Prisoner. So they would actually know each other. But he's been in Stingers, Blue Heelers, and he was in Neighbours. Now, when I was I didn't write it down, so I can't tell you. But if you look on his Wikipedia page, he has been in Neighbours 5 times.
Recurrent character?
No.
Oh,
no,
better.
He's one of those guys that you go, how come that police chief looks like the bad guy from 10 years ago? Because he keeps coming back as different characters. So that's who that is.
No. They're playing the long game, the long con. He's going to come into it eventually, and it turns out he's like a spy or something.
Yeah.
Who's been spying on them as these different characters.
Well, he doesn't act anymore. He's a playwright. He does local community theatre stuff instead.
Did you plagiarize Haunt?
No. Haunt's only ever been produced twice. And update on that, they didn't record the new cast doing it.
Oh.
They did it, but they didn't record it.
Is the recording, you have the only one?
Yes, actually.
Ooh.
That's the only one that they've recorded. But anyway, back onto this. This is interviewing a lady called Dawn Fisher. Remember the first tape how it's basically just one person talking?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what this one is again. But there's a presenter, but you barely ever see him. And when they cut to him, he's doing that thing. Kind of like Noni was when she was telling us not to stick forks in power sockets.
Right.
Oh, so we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So Dawn Fisher is currently the chair of the board of governance for the NDIS. She does all that.
Tori would know what that is.
Yeah, it's basically disability support.
Okay.
They give money, and it's an insurance scheme for disabled people so that they don't have to pay for things and stuff. She's originally from the UK. She moved to Australia and started working in Melbourne. Usually when we find people, it's kind of funny that they end up being from Geelong. She actually lives closer to one of our friends on the other side of the bay in the Mornington Peninsula, and she does two different charities. She does a charity for old people, dementia, that sort of mental health scheme for old people, and she also does a charity for the preservation of the Mornington Historical Society, and she will on occasion do tours about historical stuff. I found her phone number. And as soon as COVID's down, we can quite possibly go for a historical walk with her around Mornington if we really wanted to.
We should do that.
We should do that. Yeah, so that's nice. It's funny because I still kind of think in the lines of, even if we're not going to do a phone segment live here, I should find the phone numbers. And even just sitting here, I found the phone number for the other one as well. We got 2 phone numbers this episode. Hey, for phone numbers.
Maybe what we should do is we should just hoard the calls, and we just do a call special where we play all the calls and talk about them.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Especially if we deliberately do tiny 2 to 5 minute mixtapes of that video before we call the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Summaries, we can be like, hey, this is the video, this is the person, let's go. Anyway, let's play this tape.
Yeah. Absolutely. Dementia. This one's not going to be snowy. Oh, yay. There you go. There's you had your technical
just
problem.
have to bash the batteries.
Also, you said we had no technical problems, and I guess the snowiness of the first video doesn't really
That's
count.
not a technical problem.
It's just that it was a crap video.
That's just part of the experience.
It's fun. By the way, the first video I showed you, I didn't watch it, so I didn't know it had a Christmas tree, but I could hear it while I was cooking, and I could hear this one when I was cooking. And what do you hear? That's Christmas music. That's the Frosty the Snowman song from the UK there. I'm walking through the snow.
We should have probably waited.
Yeah, well, I didn't know.
Christmas. Alright, that's unfortunate. Yo, Jaden Broadcasting! How you doing, dude? What has been happening? 16 months, man.
Dementia.
Yeah, I can only remember one of those months, so maybe I do have
early onset memory loss. Is that different from dementia? Dementia is different, right? I
think dementia would be the big category. Oh, you spent 0 seconds watching? How dare you? we both know that's a lie. You've been watching.
Confusion.
You watched quite a bit, right?
Loneliness.
When I was playing San Andreas.
These are just a few of the symptoms someone suffering from dementia
there he is.
may experience.
That's the soap star guy who you'll recognize but not know where he's from because he always plays...
I don't watch soapies.
Well, neither do I, but he always plays the no-name characters in the background.
A government organisation,
he looks like he's
state that between 15 and 20% of people suffer from a psychiatric disability sometime in their lives to the extent where they need professional assistance or intervention.
You've watched more than 6 hours,
That means at worst, 1 in 5 people will be affected by some form of mental illness.
There was a point where you were here every stream.
How many
and I was
people do you
streaming
know?
3 to 4 days a week.
How many people are you close to?
1 person in 5. How many people do you know?
Chances are you will have
One
known
I know
someone who
Torres,
has a mental illness.
Jackson, and you.
25 years ago, you may never have seen these people. They'd have been institutionalized, locked away. And now, with community support, they're able to stay longer within their own homes. And within the community, those people who were once disregarded can look forward to a better quality of life.
I look forward to a better quality of life.
Worrying things began to happen. On occasion, she would be found wandering the neighbourhood.
Yes,
not knowing
Jane
which house was
Broadcasting.
hers.
This is
She would turn on the oven.
Since
forget to
I'm not
light
sure
it,
you've seen this
prepare
before,
a
this is
meal,
obscure tape
forget to
time.
eat it.
We have a
But
lot of VHS tapes,
growing old
and we thought
doesn't
we should
mean
watch them.
Losing one's memory or
We
even
went around
losing one's
collecting them
mind.
10
We all
years
forget
ago.
things from
Yeah,
time to
10 years
time.
ago we decided
But
we
when
wanted
that
to collect them,
forgetfulness
and
disrupts
didn't
one's
really do
whole
much
life,
with them for
then
like
perhaps
literally
dementia
10
illness
years.
may be the cause.
And now we're watching
The
them.
word dementia refers to a group of illnesses that affect the brain
Dementia.
physically
Dementia.
and impairs one's mental abilities. Now, years ago, we knew this simply as senility. But today, as dementia, this group of
Senility.
illnesses
Is
affect
that
something
really
like
a word?
100,000 Australians.
I guess so.
And it doesn't
I mean,
have
I
anything
understand
to do
it,
with
so
old
it
He's
has
age.
reading
to
a
be.
script, so it's not his
Because
fault
even though it
regardless.
affects
But
mainly people in their 60s and beyond, people in their 20s,
I would
30s
call
and
it
40s can also be afflicted.
3 Kodak
Now, the
film.
task of
Free?
caring for people with dementia
I like how they're talking
usually falls
about,
upon the shoulders
you know,
of close
losing your
relatives.
mind, and all they've done is gone
But as
outside
Dawn
and filmed
Fisher,
people
Franks
walking
of
on the
Mental
street,
Health says,
and then put a
the
stupid
task is a very onerous one,
thing over the top.
and many
What do you mean,
will seek
wait?
support.
There's no wait. Look, here's the case. VHS. You know, that old school
Dementia
thing
has a
that screwed up.
devastating effect
What are you talking
on
about?
both the
dementia
family
stuff?
and the
What are we
person
waiting
with
for?
the disorder.
I forgot.
Carers not only have to cope with the burden of care, they have
There
to
are more than
watch
100,000
someone
Australians.
There
they
is,
love
isn't
Whoa,
actually
hold-
change
Or are
into
you
a
of
stranger.
the thing that says that we don't
Carers
exist?
tend to become
There's a
socially
statistic
isolated.
probability.
Friends
Or at
gradually
least
stop
statistic
visiting because they
possibility
become embarrassed and
that we
aren't
don't
able to
exist.
cope with the situation.
Yeah, but that's the whole world,
and the
because
carers no
there's an
longer
infinite
able to
number
get out to
of
attend
worlds out there
social
in the
clubs
universe, and
and
any
things that
infinite
they
number
enjoy
divided
doing.
by any rational number is
Even
so
shopping
close to zero
becomes
that
difficult.
it just doesn't matter. So
The
that
caring
Right,
everyone
but just
you
take
meet on the
24
street
hours a
is
day,
in fact just a
7
figment of
days
your
a
imagination.
week.
The reason
over
the
many
Australia
years.
thing is funny and like,
Dementia
you know,
is not a
if an alien
diagnosis
from
in
another
itself.
planet
It's
heard
the name
about it,
given
right?
to a group of symptoms
They could believe
that are a
it
result
because
of
if you
brain
take the
damage.
whole population of the
The main
planet
characteristics
and then look
are
at the general errors that they get
deterioration
in
in memory,
census data from
changes
all
in
across the planet.
personality,
It just means we're
impairment
lazy.
of judgment and
Well,
intellectual
no,
function.
like if you take those
Quite
errors
simply
and
put,
and
dementia
average
is a
them,
loss of mental
the
capacity.
average is more than the population of Australia.
There are many causes of dementia.
So therefore,
Trauma,
statistically it is
head
possible
injury,
that Australia doesn't
Tumour
exist.
22
causes
million New
dementia.
Zealanders and
Some
only
a
100,000
particular dementia,
Australians.
Jacob-Schwartz disease, is caused
I think
by
the math has
slow
gone wrong
virus
somewhere.
disease.
What did I miss? What was the
Progressive
100,000? Was that with
neurological
dementia, I
diseases
think,
can
right?
result in
100,000
dementia.
suffering.
Oh.
Diseases like Parkinson's
So how many
disease
suffering
and
from dementia
Huntington
in New
chorea.
Zealand?
Toxins can
22
also
million.
cause dementia.
They're all screwed
Alcohol,
up.
toxic fumes,
Australia was never a thing.
glue sniffing can result in
This
dementia.
is a ruse.
And there are hereditary
We're in the middle of the
causes
desert
for
right
a
now,
particular
in the middle of
dementia
Nevada,
by the name of
filming this with
Pick's
fake
disease.
accents. We're
And
paid
there are many
actors.
other
Does that mean that
causes.
the bombs never went off
The
there
three
either?
main types of dementia I'm going to talk about
And all
are
that was
alcohol
a ruse
dementia,
to set
which
up
accounts for about 10% of all
The Australia
dementias.
hoax.
The
10
second
in
largest
100.
cause of
Can't we
dementia
drop
is
2 of
multi
those?
infarct
Oh, he's often
dementia,
called 1 in
which
10.
accounts for about 20 to 25% of all dementias, and Alzheimer's disease, which is the largest cause of dementia, accounting for about 50%
Your
of all
great-grandmother had dementia.
dementias.
Yeah.
Such a brutal thing.
I'll
What
describe
about your
the three
not so great
types
grandmother?
in more detail.
Nobody
starting
cares
with
about her.
alcohol
Nobody
dementia.
cares about her, but she didn't.
Was a
The age
tank.
of onset can be
Really?
very early,
Like,
and I know
It
somebody
held
who
water or
was affected
Slurpees?
by alcohol dementia in their
Sorry,
late
I keep
20s.
seeing the petrol pump do the petrol
cause
to 7-Eleven
of the disease
in their big
as
tank,
is
but their
as the
tank
name
has
suggests
Slurpee written on the side of it. I'm like, oh, that's
and
where the Slurpee
progress
comes from.
of the disease of the dementia is
16
a gradual
years before she
deterioration.
died?
There's a gradual
Wow.
deterioration all the time the person is drinking.
How is that
If
even
they
a
stop
thing?
drinking
I didn't
and
know
have a
that would
good
have been
diet
possible.
with
Then
vitamin
again, I don't really know anything
supplement,
about anything,
they
do
will
I?
improve
No, that's
and
why we're
level
watching all
out,
these
and they'll
videos.
stay at that
You're
level
not paying attention. They talk
unless
about
they start
alcohol
drinking
dementia.
again.
Yeah, but I don't
if
wanna
they do
know.
start drinking again, you get the
This is too real to me. This is too much a possibility.
And they stop drinking, an improvement, and they level out.
Dawn, what are some of the problems that people can expect if they have alcohol dementia?
Protection 5.
With alcohol dementia, there is short-term memory loss, which means that the person
I wish I had feather
may
falling.
not remember what happened a few
Don't
moments ago,
try
a few
that
hours
spring
ago.
jump
They may
before
not
you
know
put
what
on the
they had
feather
for
fall.
breakfast. They may not know what they've just had for lunch. What they might do is appear as though they do know what's going on by a technique that we call confabulating. They're not actually
Wait, so
telling
what's the difference
lies.
between
What
dementia
they
and
tend to do
Alzheimer's?
is
I think
say
Alzheimer's
what they
is a
think
branch.
might have happened or what they might have had for breakfast.
No, it's a mental disease.
Quite often,
As in,
with
if
alcohol
dementia was the
dementia,
tree,
the mid-term memory and the
Alzheimer's
long-term
would be a
memory
branch.
can also be affected.
Tori
There's
can probably
often
fix
not
that, like
complete loss,
clarify that if
but
she's
the
not
memory
too
is a
busy
bit
with a
patchy.
sleeping baby.
Well, it sounds
But I
as if
think
it'll be
that's
very
how it works.
difficult
I think it's
for
a
people
form
to
of
get by
dementia.
with this memory problem.
Dementia being the
So
broad
what can we
term.
do to cope with this illness?
Alcohol dementia can be coped with.
Do you
in
think
He's in a
the
different
same-
room. He's in a different room, dude.
Routine for the person, regular daily routine.
I don't know, man. I don't know about being
For
the best crewman
example,
ever.
the
You just
person
literally implied
gets
that
up
all
in the
Australians are
morning,
sus.
The first thing they do is look at
Kinda
their
sus, better vote
diary
'em out.
to see what to do next.
That
And the
implies that you're
diary
probably a
might
better
say,
imposter, right?
Have a shower,
Oh, we get
get
more
dressed,
people writing
go
books.
to milk bar for paper, have breakfast,
what I mean, you need a
etc. So the daily
checklist.
routine is mapped out in the diary.
Although she's writing her
They
daily
basically
routine
need
on a
that
book,
routine
which means she has to
to
write it out every
Oh
night.
no, and you know what
Why
that
get them
means?
into the
Why
habit of doing
bored?
the same thing.
Well, yeah, but you know what
day
that
in
means?
and
As she
day
gets
out
worse
because
and
of their
worse,
short-term
she'll
memory.
forget to.
That's
the
the
writing
only
is going to
way
get
that
worse
they
and worse,
can
and eventually she's not going to be able to
manage
read
the
it.
community.
You need a whiteboard. You need a
with
permanent
basically
marker to
memory
write down
joggers.
the actual tasks, and then a whiteboard marker for the
There
ticks.
is no real treatment
Oh,
for
yeah.
alcohol dementia. Once the
it
brain
needs-
is damaged, that damage cannot be repaired. The main treatment is
Oh,
to
rip
stop
brain.
alcohol intake
Did she just say
and
paired?
to have a good
Instead
diet
of
with
repaired?
increased supplements
Maybe
of
she just
vitamin B
Said
and usually
re
C.
super weirdly.
Vitamin
The
B
second
and C?
most common
She's
type of
trying to sell us on
dementia is
vitamin C tablets.
multi-infarct dementia.
Flintstones chewables.
Fucked.
The age of this accounts for about
Multi-infarct.
20%
What's an
of
infarct?
20 to 25% of all the dementias, and the age of onset again can be quite early. I've known somebody in
If
their
we get a hold of
mid-30s
her
to
hearing,
suffer from multi-infarct
We won't
dementia.
die if we get hit by a bad guy.
The cause
I
of
imagine that a lot of
multi-infarct
these, like the
dementia
ones they're talking
is
about now,
small
are the more common
strokes
ones
or
because
bleed into the brain,
they
which
can happen
cause
in
brain
younger people.
which cause the cells to die off.
which means you are more like there's a high chance you'll get it. 'cause you
Infarcts
can
may go unnoticed.
get it for a
And
longer
all the
period of
person
your
might
life.
experience is a period of increased confusion or a period of just not feeling well. If the infarct's a bit larger,
I
they
get
might
periods of
have
just not
more
feeling well.
problems, but quite often they do
Oh,
go
shit.
unnoticed. The progress of the disease is said
Oh,
to,
that
of
graph
the dementia
fading.
is said to be
It's beautiful.
stepwise. The person has an infarct, they deteriorate dramatically, improve a little, and then
Thought it might
level
have been a
out.
typo,
And they
but
may
she's
stay
saying
at that level unless they have another infarct.
You have a
And
40%
again, they'll
chance to lose a
deteriorate,
crewmate.
improve
See, normally
little,
when you go
and
one-on-one
then
with another
stabilise.
imposter, you've got a 50%
The
chance
part
of
of the
winning.
brain that's affected by the infarct
I don't know what
decides
you guys
on the
are
part of
about.
the person's function that's involved. For example, if the
I've never even
infarct
played,
affects the speech
honestly.
centre, the
I
person
have an
may have
hour
difficulty
for
either
Among Us.
expressing
I have an hour's
themselves,
playtime on Steam,
understanding what's being
but I
said
like
to them.
spent that whole
They
time in the
might
menu
have
being like, "Are we playing?
difficulty with
Are we
words,
playing?
difficulty with
I don't know. I
No.
have to
Okay,
get-
bye."
name finding. People with multi-infarct dementia often get spatial discrimination
Oh.
problems, where they're not
Don't
sure
discriminate
where they
against
are
the
or where
spaces.
parts of their body are in space. For example, you can be going down steps with somebody with this type of dementia.
Milky Way.
You might ask them to step down, and in fact, they put their foot upwards. This is because they don't know where their foot is in space, and this also has implications
time?
for dressing and doing household
Yeah.
tasks.
Are there other problems associated
Cut out the
with
bit where she looks at her
multi-infarct
notes. Come on.
There may be some memory problems. Again, the short-term memory may be affected, or it may be other
They made him
memory.
read his lines elsewhere.
It may be other parts of the memory.
They had him
Sometimes
for a
the
day.
short-term
They just
memory
had him
can
read
be
everything and they got
quite
rid
They
of
didn't
it.
even
good,
have
but the
him.
mid-term
They got him to
memory or the
recorded
long-term
himself and
memory
send
may
it
be
in.
patchy.
Not in the 90s. or 80s. Whenever
The
it was
third
made,
type of
to say.
dementia I'd like to talk
Just
about
one.
is
91.
Alzheimer's disease, which is the biggest
91.
cause of
Was that the copyright? So it was
dementia
late 80s, yeah.
in Australia today and accounts for about 50% of all the
That's some
dementias.
pretty advanced computer graphics for the
It was first
late 80s,
described
right?
in 1907
It does seem
by
like-
Alois Alzheimer, who was researching changes in the
That was
brain
very
after
standard
death
of the
of
time,
a group
yeah.
of people with similar symptoms. He discovered certain changes in the brain, which he described as neurofibrillary tangles and protein plaques, which interfered
I like how
with the
she thinks that's a joke.
transmission of messages
She was
from
almost
one
laughing at
cell
her own joke
to
then.
another.
Neurofibrillary
Either that,
And
tangles.
so
or she was
he discovered
laughing
a
at the
new
fact that it was very
disease
difficult
called
for her to
presenile
say.
dementia or
So it was like
Alzheimer's
a 10th
disease.
take.
These
I'm
changes
gonna get it this
are
time.
become
Neurofibrillary
widespread
tangles.
throughout
Stop
the
cutting back to
brain.
him. We know he's not there.
But we need
So
nutty shots.
eventually affect all the person's personality,
big
the
ear
whole of the
shots.
person's personality and their ability to function. The progression is a gradual deterioration. I
says slow decline
wish to
there. You could have
stress
said that.
Fucking
quite
kill me if I get
strongly that
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's disease is not part of normal
I said
aging
that once
process.
And I'll
There
say
is
it
some
again.
decrement in memory and in language
once
with normal aging, but
And
that
I'll
is
say it
quite
again.
different to the changes that we see in Alzheimer's disease.
It's very strange. I have
See, she
days
pronounced the
when
Z.
I'm perfectly
Huh?
normal.
She pronounced the Z in
I
Alzheimer's.
don't forget anything, and I ring up my friends and talk to them. Sometimes I should have done something, and,
She's sitting
and
in
I
the same
forget.
place that Dawn was
My
sitting
daughter's
in.
very good. She reminds me, but that goes in spells. And sometimes I get so
In
cross.
spells?
I think, well,
What
She's got
witchcraft
the
is
exact
this?
same
Why
accent
do
as my
people-
grandma.
saying that there's something wrong with me.
Like exactly
As I
the
say, I've
same.
always had a wonderful
And jacket
memory. And
No, I don't think that's something my
No.
grandma would wear. My
I
grandma's a bit more
stand
lazy
there
with her fashion
sometimes thinking,
sense.
what have I come in here for?
I mean, I do that. Is that
It's said
Alzheimer's or
that
just
100,000 Australians have
room
Alzheimer's disease,
forgetfulness?
and
You
in
walk through a
Victoria
doorway,
the number is
suddenly
about
all your memories in a
25,000.
different room.
However, we're told by
That's
the
a real
year
thing.
1996 it's thought that these numbers will double. Alzheimer's disease
Why?
is age-related, which means the
Because
older
we're
we
not gonna
get,
get any
the
better at
greater
treating
risk we have of being
Oh.
affected by the disease.
But we did, didn't we?
About 5% of people over the age of 60 are affected by Alzheimer's disease, and 20% of people over the age of 80 are said to have Alzheimer's disease.
Occasionally we all
They just said
read or
to.
hear about the causes of Alzheimer's disease. What are some of the latest theories?
One of the areas that's being researched quite extensively in
there,
Victoria
Kenny.
at the moment is the link between
Audio
aluminium and
quality is so
Alzheimer's
clearly
disease.
different.
It's known that there's aluminium deposits in the neurofibrillary tangles in
I'm
the
getting
brain
sick of that frickin'
of
soundtrack
people
behind
suffering
it.
with Alzheimer's disease. Another
that's
area
fine.
being
It's taking up the
researched
white
is
noise,
that
that's what I'm
there's
saying.
a lack of a chemical that's normally present in the brain in people that have Alzheimer's disease. There is a theory
Okay.
that it may be caused by a slow virus, but I think most research is being done to rule
Slow
out this
virus.
rather than the fact that people suspect that might be a cause.
Then why even mention it?
It's thought it could be due that Alzheimer's disease could be due to autoimmune disease,
We don't need
which is
to take this
basically
one.
the body killing off
No.
its own brain cells. And another theory
Why would it do that?
that's quite extensively pushed
Suicidal.
is nutritional deficiencies. But basically, I think many
As we
people
get older,
think
we
the
don't eat as
cause
many
may be
vegetables.
multifactorial in that some people are born with a predisposition toward the disease, but this is affected
You mean
by
genetic?
environmental factors.
Oh, environment.
My name is Dorothy, and I have got
Hey, you got a
Alzheimer's
cheat sheet.
disease.
She didn't know what her name
I
was.
suppose
She
we
read
never
it.
think about these things, do we? None of us know
Well,
what's
you might
around the
have.
corner, do
You may
we?
have forgotten about it.
If anybody had told me this would happen to
we?
me, I would think they were mad.
Alzheimer's disease is said to progress in 3 stages. I'll describe these stages in detail because if you have some idea of what is happening, it's easier to understand the person and to manage different aspects of their behaviour. The first stage often goes unrecognised. The onset is very gradual, usually over a period of several years, maybe up to 5 years. The person has short-term memory problems and is usually able to cover up this memory impairment by writing notes to themselves.
Just a minute. I write notes to myself to remind me of dates, activities, even shopping lists.
Straighten your tie, Kevin.
Does that mean I've got Alzheimer's disease?
We all write notes to ourselves, but the difference is that you and I may forget to take our shopping list shopping. However, when we get to the supermarket, we remember that we've written a note and we remember that we've left it at home. Somebody with Alzheimer's disease wouldn't remember that they'd written a note in the first place, and that's the difference between somebody who doesn't have Alzheimer's disease and somebody who does have Alzheimer's disease. Quite often in the early stages, there are other problems. The person might become a little bit irritable, not quite themselves, and quite often people tend to cover up and make excuses. The person may not be feeling well, may have a few family problems, may need a rest or a holiday. So workers and friends do tend to make excuses. One of the first things that's noticeable is the person does tend to forget people's names. People that he's known for many years cannot remember their names when they visit. There's often some disorientation in time in the first stage. The person isn't quite sure which day of the week it is, or even what part of the day it is, whether it's morning or afternoon.
This is what happens.
Again, in the first stages, there are often changes in personality.
No, it's more just like she'll tell me something and then I'll have forgotten it like 5 minutes later.
Yeah,
he puts something down, can't find it, and accuses somebody else of taking it.
I do that all the time.
Also, during the first stage,
like
friends might notice changes in the person's hygiene.
And then why was it important enough to where 5 minutes later I thought of it again
fairly
and had to ask again.
fastidious, might go out with food stains on their clothes, might even forget to have a shower.
I'll do that anyway, I don't give a shit.
By the second stage, it's pretty obvious that something's wrong. The memory becomes much worse. The short-term memory goes first, then the mid-term, and the long-term memory tends to stay intact till fairly late in the disease. There's more disorientation. First time, when the person doesn't know what day of the week it is, which month of the year, what season, even what year it is. Then they may become usually they become disorientated in place next and will often get lost. They'll often wander out of the house, maybe to go shopping, and not be able to find their way back. If picked up by the police and asked their address, will often give the address where they were born rather than the address in which they're presently living. That's because quite often their long-term memory is still intact and they remember things that happened earlier on in their life,
like the lady who came into my
sometimes
work,
in quite minute detail, where they were born, the names of friends, childhood friends, that sort of thing. But if you ask them something that happened earlier that day, what they had for lunch, they won't remember it. A person with Alzheimer's disease will become disorientated,
I don't have any long-term
disoriented in person, and they'll fail to recognise old friends, maybe family members, usually grandchildren first, then their children, but tend to remember their spouse for quite a long time into the disease. People with Alzheimer's disease also lose the ability to read and write, and that has implications for
Alzheimer's disease.
Legal matters and signing legal forms, etc.
Like the AIDS.
Yeah, like
people
the
with
AIDS.
Alzheimer's disease lose the ability to perform tasks of daily living, tasks like cooking, cleaning, dressing, showering, and often become quite dependent on others for these daily needs.
Nudity.
They also have problems with communicating. Initially, they have difficulty expressing themselves and later difficulty understanding what is said to them. They also fail to recognise familiar
Who'd they
objects.
get to do the shower
You
scene?
could put a comb into
Hopefully her.
the hand of somebody with Alzheimer's disease and they
That's
may
something I'd ask
stand
her
and
if I
stare
rang
at
her
it, not knowing what to do with it. This failure to recognise
She'd be like,
familiar
"I don't know.
objects
Maybe it
and
was Kevin."
loss of understanding has implications
I fucking know.
when
Cole's
asking
supposed to be
somebody
made
with
it.
Alzheimer's disease to do something. For example, you could
Call the
ask them
director.
to put some
Or the
rubbish
producer,
into
there
the
we go.
bin
Call Peter
and they
Wrigley.
stand and stare at you. Basically,
find
they
anything
might
on Peter
not
Wrigley.
recognise a bin for what it is, and they
Nothing
might
at
not have
all.
understood what you said anyway. During the second stage, there are also personality changes as more brain cells become involved. For example, aggression, maybe sexual disinhibition,
Nice.
but these
Wake 'em
periods are usually fairly
Dehydrated, just like
short-lived.
skull a bunch of water.
However, 2 to 3 weeks to someone caring for somebody with Alzheimer's disease can seem more like 6 months. It's also important to remember or to realise that people with Alzheimer's disease are unable to learn new skills.
Can't
Quite
teach
often,
an old dog new tricks.
if we try to teach them new skills, they can become quite angry and aggressive because we're reinforcing their deficits. By the third stage, the person is completely dependent on the carer for all their daily needs, often following the carer around everywhere and not able to cope with anyone
now
taking the
focusing
carer's
on her
attention
in-breaths.
from them. At this time, they usually go.
think she may be
It's
a
usually
smoker.
at this time that they go
Or have
into
asthma.
long-term care. From the sufferer's perspective, they often become depressed. If they have some insight, they often
Really?
realise what is happening to
that?
them. They often know
This
they're a
isn't
burden
tape.
and are
Tapes
often
don't
quite
freeze.
concerned about their spouse. They often become frustrated and angry, and this in turn is often made more difficult as they lose the ability to express their feelings. At present, there's no known cure for Alzheimer's disease,
This music
so
is just
treatment is to treat the
putting me to
various
sleep.
symptoms as they present. The aim of any treatment being to keep the person in the optimum of both physical and psychological health.
Well, what problems are carers likely to encounter when they're visiting
Straighten your
or
frickin'
working
tie,
with
Kevin.
people who suffer from dementia?
People visiting or working with those with
she's still
Alzheimer's
yapping on.
disease may encounter
Yeah,
several
I
problems.
did it bad.
Firstly,
started focusing
gaining
on her
access to the
in-breaths.
house may
Oh,
be
no.
quite difficult.
Nave told me
If
about
this
it
is
now.
the
I'm not going
case,
to be
it's
able to.
often advisable to contact a neighbour, a relative or a friend and ask them to be there when they visit to enable you to get through the door. Subsequent visits are often easier once a person learns to recognise your face. Quite often, the person doesn't want help from anyone, and it may take several visits to establish a really good rapport with the person. There's no point in going into the house and say, I've come to clean up for you today, and expect to be shown the cleaner and told to, okay, get on with it. It takes a long time to sit and talk to the person, maybe have a cup of tea with them, and it may take several visits before the person will actually let you help them. People with Alzheimer's disease often become quite determined and at times may insist on leaving the house, and this might be a worry to the worker or visitor who knows this person is going to get lost, or is fairly sure that this person is going to get lost. In this case, it is much better not to confront them or try to stop them from leaving the house, but to try to distract them, either by getting them to make a cup of tea,
Something shiny.
peel some vegetables, fold washing,
Give them the
sweep
peeled
leaves.
vegetables.
If this doesn't work,
If
and
your
the person
grandma's
still
having trouble
insists on
doing things and you
leaving,
don't want her to
it's
leave the
much
house,
better to
get her to
go
peel
with
your
them.
vegetables.
Maybe walk round the block and come in the
Vegetables
back door,
don't need to
talking
be
about the
peeled,
gardens
but it's something for the
as
old
you
people
go.
to do.
Maybe going into a neighbour's for a cup of tea, or maybe continuing to walk to the milk bar to get a pint
So what
of
you're
milk
saying is a cup of
and
tea.
return home again. People with Alzheimer's disease sometimes have visual hallucinations
Stock
where
footage.
they may see people or children outside the window or even sitting in the house.
What's going on?
It's much better not to argue with them and
We had this
say
last
that
time we had stock
there's
footage.
definitely
There
nobody
seems to be a
there,
freeze.
but to
But this is
acknowledge
tape.
that
Tape doesn't
the
freeze.
person can see them,
That's them
but you
just not
can't,
editing
and
it properly.
distract
Yeah.
them into doing something else. Either take them into the kitchen again to make a cup of tea or peel vegetables.
Yeah, make them a cup of tea.
Don't
Peel
you-
There are a number
vegetables.
of pointers
Make
for
cup of tea,
either
peel
living
vegetables. That's
with
what
or
you do when you
working
get old
with
and you
someone
forget
with
how to live.
Alzheimer's disease. It's important not to completely take over and organise the person's household and not to be bossy. People with Alzheimer's disease are more often than not
Inbreds.
elderly and have rights the same as the rest of us. It's important not to be
Tea is
patronising
a
or
good
treat them like a child. They're not
You
children
would know.
and shouldn't be treated as such. Again, it's important not to reinforce their deficits, the things that they can no longer do, but to emphasise the skills that they still retain. Another very important thing to remember is not to confront or to argue with the person. It's much better to back off and try again later. That may apply to helping them clean the house, helping them dress, giving them medication, etc. It's very important when visiting or working with somebody to ask their permission to do things. For example, would you mind if I make a cup of tea? How about we do the washing together so that we can have a good gossip? It's very important with people with Alzheimer's disease to promote their self-esteem and self-worth and to maintain that person's dignity.
It's the way it's the way people talk to you, as if I'm a child almost. People do tend to treat you as if
There seems to be a
you
lot
are a
of
little
writing
bit
on that bit of
mental,
paper.
which hurts. It hurts a lot because, I mean, even young people have a bad memory, don't they? That's what my daughter
don't know,
says
I
to
don't
me. Well,
remember.
I don't know. You remember things that I don't. And I don't feel ill. This is the thing. But it can hurt when people keep reminding you that you've got something wrong with you.
Living each day at a time is a very good maxim for both carers and the person with Alzheimer's disease, particularly if the person with Alzheimer's disease does have some
It's quite a
insight.
depressing episode, isn't it?
Really to
Yeah.
think to
Very
either
much.
the
Seems to be a
following
running theme with my
afternoon,
choices.
the
But I
next
feel like
afternoon
we'll
or the
forget
next
about it.
day is
Good.
sufficient.
Eventually.
Is sufficient rather than try to plan for weeks ahead.
You think this one's
Yeah, I mean,
depressing?
my
You just wait
advice to
until the next
anybody who
video.
has this
The
sort of
early
thing
onset
is
memory
not
loss
to
one?
sit down
Oh
and feel
no, what's
sorry
going to
for
happen in that one?
themselves. Do something.
Yeah, it's going to
I
be
mean,
terrible.
I do a lot of
It's
crest
basically the same
flower
stuff.
work and I
Again?
sew.
Yeah.
And I write
How long
numerous
does it go
letters.
for?
Oh,
So I
20
keep
minutes.
myself occupied.
Do you have any notes about
That's
it?
the best
Yes.
thing to do. I would say take each day as it comes and do whatever you can. If you can look
Take
after
each
yourself,
tea as it
so much the
comes.
better.
Alzheimer's disease is becoming a much more familiar name to our society today. It's been referred to as old-timers disease.
It's been described as
the
it's
scourge
being
of the
referred
age,
to as Alzheimer's disease.
the epidemic of the 21st century. For carers,
Yeah.
it's been likened to an ongoing
She
funeral.
wasn't tonight.
And a 70-year-old man who has subsequently died of the disease described it as a complete loss of self. At present, there is no cure for Alzheimer's disease, but what we can do is try our very best to improve the quality of life for both the carer and the sufferer.
On
We had a little bit of
occasions,
art there.
I have a feeling that people are a little bit afraid of me. See, people that used to come and see me don't come anymore. They don't ring me up. There are two friends that keep on ring me up and chat to me, and that makes
Maybe they
me
do, and you don't
feel.
remember.
Good point.
Why don't they? You know, I think they're afraid. But why they should be, I don't know. It's unkind of people to behave like that. But one never knows what's around the corner, do you?
Dorothy, how would you like to be treated by people?
Normally.
Is that another freeze? What's going on here?
Now, there is
That
a
was some
major
editing
problem
if I
that
ever did
confronts
see it.
anyone with a psychiatric disability. And that affects not only
Put your
that
hand out of
person,
your pocket.
but
You're
also
doing what?
everyone associated with that person. And that major hurdle, the major obstacle, is the great
He's got
stigma
70s brown.
that is attached to any psychiatric illness. The so-called normal members of our
Puppy.
society fear anyone who's different.
There's a puppy at the end of
It's
this
vital
video
that the
too.
community realise that this very
Hello,
fear
they've got an
diminishes
ice
the quality
cream.
of life
No,
not
but-
only of those who are afflicted with any mental illness,
You think
but
they
every
maybe
member
like
of society.
didn't pay
As
for
has been
this
pointed
stock
out,
footage?
many people with a mental
Or do you
illness you will
think
never
maybe they're
recognise.
trying to blur
Why?
it so that you can't recognize
Chances are they're
people's
scared.
faces?
Scared of being
knows?
recognised for what they might be. Scared of how people will judge them.
I don't
And
really
these
see
people
how
have
this
been
has got
treated very
anything to
harshly
do with what we've
indeed.
been learning about.
Not only
Who
in
was
the
that
past,
lady? I mean, that
but
guy
in the
may
present
be old,
also.
but the other lady
In
just
fact,
then
they've been
wasn't.
brutalised both physically and mentally. They've been treated
He's got a
as
full hat.
menaces,
Look at that swag.
dangers to society, in fact, subhuman, or even objects of pity. This is not what they need.
Aw, why is
There is
she an
every
object
good
of
reason
pity?
for them to be scared.
Why'd you zoom in on
They're
her
not
when you said that?
monsters. They're people, just like you and me. Perhaps, in fact, they are you or me.
Maybe they are you. Or me. Down, down. Thanks, Dawn, for all the words that you said.
Yeah, the whole tea being a good distraction thing.
You got
It is-
distracted
it
by
is
that.
Pretty legit.
Yeah.
Well, I just read the comment again. I was like, hey, now that I think about it, thinking back to when that lady came into my work that one time.
You made her a cup of tea.
I did, and she kept trying to leave, and every time she would, I'd be like, would you like a cup of tea?
You made it too hot and she burned her mouth.
Thankfully, I didn't do that.
Thanks, Impact Video.
TNA Impact?
And Commercial Video. For the use of their equipment. Disappearing! The words are disappearing.
What did they say? I already forgot!
Thanks to Community Services of Victoria.
Woo! For making funding available for this project.
What funding did they need? Can you
Camera
imagine
rental.
this? Camera rental. That's about it, right?
Yeah, probably.
Well, they probably would have had to have paid Kevin. He's a soap star.
True. Not much, though.
No. He just plays background characters.
Well, that was exciting.
Exciting?
Yeah, I was riveted.
Okay. Nice. Oh, I've got more
I'm one of the
credits
people who
now.
would rather not know what's going to happen to me when I get old.
Yeah, well now you've learned.
Hopefully I forget.
We did another medical one real quick. And tried to hide it as something else.
Yeah, I wanted to do phobias, but we didn't have anything to go with the social
you
phobias.
said that the whole, like, losing your memory was scary, so that
It is
that
scary.
counts,
Not wrong.
right? Well, yeah, we didn't have any, like, this is a video about spiders.
Yeah.
And we don't really
Here's
have...
a snake!
We don't really have Halloweeny stuff in Australia, so we didn't get many of those videos while we were collecting. So this is our closest way of doing it. Spooky, losing your memory before you're old. Ooh. Yeah, that's that. Woo!
What an episode that was.
Yeah.
How do we even reflect on that?
I don't know. I've forgotten it all already.
So anyway, guys, this is Obscure Tape Time, and today we're going to be watching some...
Early onset memory loss. Yay. Jokes.
Yeah, because next week we're doing early onset memory loss.
Yeah.
And then we're going to watch... I think we might watch some social phobia.
Is there anything special next week?
This has been the puppy episode.
Oh, puppies. Oh, that was... Oh, now you're confusing me. Next week's my pick. What am I going to pick?
I don't know.
You think it's about time we did some old-time religion? Or should we just keep saving that until Christmas? It's not quite
I don't
December
mind the
yet.
Christmas thing, but at the same time, Christmas has become so commercial. Maybe,
See,
other than our actual Christmas special, which is our, green screen tapes.
Yeah, I was thinking that would be our Christmas episode.
But the 4 weeks before that, we should do depending on how long they are, or even the 2 weeks, depending on how long the tapes are, the Pyramid Scheme one.
Okay. Because of commercial,
How long are they?
that kind of tie-in. Not that long. My religious Words of Hope trilogy video goes for about 6 hours, though.
Oh, God, that one's going to be a nightmare. How many tapes is it?
It's 3. It's 3 tapes. One's 3 hours, the other 2 are like half an hour each, so it's actually more like 4 hours, but still, it's way too long.
That's so long.
Just watching churchy stuff. But no, there's some better churchy things in there, like the What's Wrong with Christian Rock and stuff. I think I might go with that for next week.
No, that would be a good one. I really want to watch that again.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that would be awesome.
That's something a little bit more exciting. Maybe I'll just go with music and see what else is there. But
Yeah.
I think maybe Christian. Even if we go like What's Wrong with Christian Rock and then like a kids Christian puppets sing along or something. Yeah, that sounds like fun. We'll do Christian stuff. Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's it from us.
Mm.
This is Obscure Tape Time. I will see you guys on Saturday for cinema.
In the meantime, happy bouncing.
Happy bounce.